taarifa za kusisimua, mziki wa kata viungo na kindumbwe cha siasa au politics ukipenda. We are streaming live on Facebook from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington DC. We will shortly be going live on YouTube, so please call all your YouTube friends. And please remember to subscribe to both our YouTube and Facebook pages at The One Mic Show. Follow us on Instagram at One Mic Show. We are also taking in live calls tonight at 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. I want you to save that number. The number is 202-683-4570 and press star 5 to speak. And I will tell you very early, mapema and your best. Don't wait until the last minute to start calling, because at a certain point in the show, we will stop taking in calls. Now, later tonight, we'll be talking to Senator Sifuna about his political future, with ODM leader Raila Odinga now gunning for the chairmanship of the African Union Commission and other party leaders moving to Ruto's broad-based cabinet. What seat will Sifuna be vying for in 2027? Feel free to start dropping comments below with questions you'd like to ask Senator Sifuna or anything that you want him to address. Na bila kusahau, tunapokea mziki toka DJ wetu machachari mleta habari DJ Moshfire ambaye hayuko in the building leo, na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Mika Oches nambari 7 mgongoni akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now, this hour we'll be talking to Senator Edwin Sifuna about his experience at the Democratic National Convention. He'll also break down for us his oversight role at the Senate and the legislation that he has been sponsoring. Senator Sifuna will also talk about the fallout caused by ODM members joining Ruto's broad-based government. Please drop a comment below and tell us where you are tuned in from. Tell us what state you're tuned in from, whether umetoka Texas, whether umetoka Washington, whether umetoka Colorado. Please drop a comment and let us know. And I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi. It is Friday the 27th of August, and we are streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to follow The One Mic Show on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we are now on TikTok. And on panel with me tonight is Mr. One Mic Kamakawa. Sports anchor and DJ Moshfire are going to be joining us via Zoom tonight. And also not forgetting that our super producer is none other than Mubelwa Bandio. And I want to take this opportunity to welcome some of the listeners who are already tuned in. Washeke Ndirangu, karibu sana. I can see already tuned in all the way from San Antonio, Texas. Ruth Kilungu, karibu sana. And I also want to welcome Kaiser Soze, a.k.a. Afro-Jamaican. This is a Jamaican who always tunes into us, wants to come back to Kenya. He has a special question for the senator. He will be talking to us about that question later. And everybody else who's tuned in, karibu sana. Because our time is short today, this is not our usual Friday segment. We are going to get started right away. Now, we know that Kenyans have experienced a mix of emotions since the Gen Z uprising that led to more than 60 deaths. Now, many were feeling betrayed by the opposition following a deal that allowed members of ODM's leadership to join government. In studio tonight to address Kenyans in the diaspora on the new political landscape is Senator and ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna. Now, fresh from the Democratic Convention in Chicago, Senator Sifuna will tell us about his experience in Chicago and where he was and what he was able to benchmark for his party ODM. Now, while in the US, the senator also had a chance to meet Kenyans in Seattle, Washington, and in Houston, Texas. He'll also tell us about his experience there. Now, the senator just arrived in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and came straight to studio, and is scheduled for a couple of meetings in the nation's capital tomorrow. So, Senator, karibu sana ndani ya One Mic Show. How are you doing today?
Niko salama. Asante sana kwa kunikaribisha kwenye One Mic Show.
Okay, karibu sana.
And looking forward to seeing you. As you said, I've just come from Seattle. It was a long flight, but I came straight to studio. I didn't want to keep you guys waiting because I first have to apologize. We was scheduled to do this show on Friday of last week, but because of the changes in scheduling and some difficulties we experienced moving around the country, we couldn't do it. But I'm happy that we're here now.
Okay, asante sana. Thank you so much for making time to come and see us. Yeah. And just so that I'm sure, this is, have you been to the US before? Is this your first time?
This is my very first time to the US.
Okay.
I had never been to the US before.
Okay, great. Yes. What are your first impressions?
First of all, it is a very huge country, you know, when everybody is saying, oh, come to this side, go to this side, And I have been very impressed that there are Kenyans all over the place, and they are working very hard to make a living for themselves and to support their families. Yeah, so it is just a vast country. And flying over some of the states, like when I came from Houston all the way to Seattle, the country is very flat. The country is very flat. And
the earth is flat.
Yes, the earth here is very flat. And
Yeah.
there's just large swaths of agricultural land where it seems like nobody lives there.
Okay.
But the first impressions is that it's a very vast country.
Okay, so the next time ukija, we're going to take you to the mountainous parts of the country. States like Colorado,
Utah. Tu juu.
Oh, mulipita tu juu.
Tulipita tu juu.
Okay.
Na time zone mazezi imenilemea. Ujui ni saa ngapi nyumbani, hapa ni saa ngapi, mwili nataka kulala, jua na waka.
Sasa hii ni zone gani huko? Unakumbuka hii ni time zone gani hapa?
Hii sasa si ni Eastern Standard Time ya.
There you go.
Eastern Seaboard wanaita.
Yeah, Eastern Standard Time.
So kama tumetoka Seattle, I think wako 3 hours.
Seattle wako Pacific Time.
Wako 3
hours behind. Yeah.
Yani inanichanganya mbaya.
So mkitoka mapema mnafika huku late.
Ndio hiyo.
Yeah. Mnatoka mapema mnafika late, lakini
mimi nilifikiria nitafika mapema juu tulitoka huko saa 2:30.
Mapema ndio best.
Sasa tukifika huku bana masaa imeshaisha.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was a good trip. I thank God for the journey, masses. Tumefika salama.
Okay, sawa. And just give us your experience. You were in Houston, Texas, and you were in Seattle, Washington.
Yes.
Ulipata nafasi ya kukutana na Wakenya huko.
Yeah.
What exactly are Kenyans telling you? Or what forum were you meeting the Kenyans?
First, I was in New York. I passed through New York because there was a summit there that I was a panelist on.
Okay.
It was not scheduled. I was supposed to go straight to Chicago for the DNC.
Okay.
I had been invited by the National Democratic Institute, which is one of the associations or bodies related to or affiliated to the Democratic Party in the US. And those of you who follow Kenyan politics will know that there are these international associations between political parties. So
yes.
ODM belongs to this association of liberal political parties. There are many. There are over 100 political parties across the country. We're also members of Africa Liberal Network, which is also a network of African liberal political parties. And we get invitations. We also invite them sometimes to Kenya to be able to witness some of these milestones, especially big milestones like the conventions in the democratic process in the US. So even for me as SG, when we had our convention prior to the election of 2017, 2022 as well, we invited members from all across the world to come and witness, during that momentous occasion when you're presenting your candidate with a certificate. So tulikuwa tumekuja kupatia Kamala tikiti.
Okay.
And that is what I was in the US to do. But I had occasion to visit Kenyans in Texas. There's a very vibrant community down there. We had opportunity to sit with a few of them and to have a conversation. And then of course I got opportunity as well to go all the way to Seattle. The people in Seattle complained that many of the leaders in Kenya, when they come to America, they never go to the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
Because many people say it is very far. But I am very happy and very honored for the opportunity to meet all these Kenyans. Kuna jamaa huko anaitwa Pastor Mrasta huko Seattle, Muigai. Pia yeye ni wa Morema vile alitukaribisha kwa nyumba yake, akatupikia. Hata mkutano tulifanyia tu kwa nyumba yake, and there were very many Kenyans there, and they have raised a number of concerns. And one of the things that they have raised, and I had you touch on it in your introduction, is the people in the diaspora feel very neglected, overlooked, ignored. Like wameniambia ati si tunawaonanga tu nyinyi ni kama watu kutoa tu pesa.
Exactly.
Ati kazi yenu ni kutuma tu pesa, but there is no representation. Nobody really takes up your issues. And I have made a promise that for me, as an elected senator, now that we have these connections that we've made, if there is a way in which we can grow the association or the connection such that I am able to receive feedback and information about the challenges you're going through as Kenyans in diaspora, I have made a commitment in Seattle to the Kenyans who are there that I will be their senator, because that is what I was elected to do. I should represent people. If there are any issues that need to be highlighted, issues that need to be trumpeted so that action can be taken, you can count on me, Ali, that I will be able to do that job. In fact, tomorrow I am scheduled to have a meeting at the Kenyan embassy here in Washington. There are a lot of complaints. The guys in Seattle there complained that they had been promised a functioning consulate in California to be able to handle that belt of states. It is not working. If you have conversations with people from the embassy themselves, they'll tell you the consulate in California, and it has been for the longest time staffed by one person.
The LA consulate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ati iko na mfanyikazi moja. Then hata ile ya New York iko na mfanyikazi moja. Unakuta mtu atemefunga safari, amekuja labda kurenew passport yake DC, ama amekuja kuchukua passport za watoto wake. Akifika hapa DC anaambiwa ati mashini imeharibika, and the people here in DC are saying, oh, you know, everything is controlled from Nairobi, the system is controlled in Nairobi, sometimes we don't have anything that we can do. And to tell somebody who has traveled that long distance, like today I've experienced it myself,
yes.
all the way from Seattle, alafu kuje uambiwe ati mashini haifanyi. You know, those are things that we want to have a conversation with our diaspora affairs, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and you will see, because I have a platform as an elected senator, I have the powers to raise questions with the relevant ministry. I have powers these days. The cabinet secretaries come to the Senate to answer questions.
Yeah, I've seen
so the
that.
very first questions you will see when I go back to Nairobi, because the Senate right now is in recess. We are on recess. That is why I am able to take, not holiday.
Okay,
recess is not the same as holiday.
Okay, just check it. Confirm.
Unajua ulikuwa unaniambia ati sijui nijifunze American language, ati huko hakuna Soviet, ati sijui mnasema towel. Sasa wewe umegeuza recess imekuwa holiday. There is a difference.
Yeah.
The recess just means that the Senate does not have sittings.
Yeah.
What happens is that we get opportunity to also do other things in terms of meeting with your constituents, having programs on the ground. So many things are done during recess, because, you know, sometimes we have, when you have sittings like that, you have to be in parliament every day. So we have a 3-week recess, and when we resume, I am hoping that even if I'm not able to get answers from the embassy tomorrow for the questions that have been raised, I will be a champion for making sure that the issues of the people in the diaspora are actually spoken about and brought to light, so that we can find solutions to these issues. But I want to say this, that as a senator from the Republic of Kenya, as an elected representative, many of these people voted for me, including the driver who has brought me just now. Anatoka Kasarani, amesema mimi ni senator wake. So I have a responsibility not only to explain myself and governmental policy as far as the relationship between the diaspora and Kenya is concerned, but I have a responsibility to represent all of you in the Senate for as long as I am there. So I want to make this commitment and to appreciate all the things that the people in the diaspora are doing in terms of making a contribution to the growth of the country. I feel you, when you say many people just think you are ATMs, watu wanafikiria kuna kitu mnaita sijui black tax.
Black tax, yes.
Ati kazi ni kutuma tu pesa nyumbani, saa ile mtoto ni mgonjwa, mtu anafaa kwenda shule. It is also our responsibility as leaders to find solutions to perennial problems like healthcare and education, so that we relieve the pressure on you guys, because majority of the people I spoke to, zile vitu wanaitishwanga pesa juu yake utakuta ni hizo. Alafu wana complain sana, the country hadi imejaa wakora.
Of course. Watu wa diaspora wameoshwa.
Yani wanasema yani wanaoshwanga daily. Hata ukitumia mtu pesa mwenye ni bro yako tu mwenyewe.
Yes.
The system is such, it has been
it's been normalized.
Has been normalized. And then also the criminal justice system is the biggest contributor ya kuoshana, kwa sababu the criminal justice system in Kenya requires a complainant to be physically present during some of these hearings.
Yeah. Sasa
wewe umefunga safari kutoka LA ama Seattle, tunaambiwa kesho kuna hearing ya hiyo kesi, umeshika mtu akikuibia, ulituma pesa ati ya mjengo nini, kufika ukakuta jamaa aliweka kibanda ya kuku na ilifaa kuwa bungalow ya bedroom 4. Na umefanya kazi bana, like the people in Seattle are working very hard. Jamaa wanapiga 18 hour shifts bana. Kwanza wako kwa hiyo home care ya kuchunga wazee, watu wagonjwa nini bana, yani ni job zingine zenye ni stressful sana. Alafu ufanye hiyo vitu yote, alafu utume pesa home ati wanakununulia shamba manini, alafu ibafuliwe. So ile system imebreak ina encourage hizo vitu wali, ni kwamba unajua sasa wewe unaweza funga safari ya tunaenda hearing Kenya. Wameshika huyo mwizi ndio.
Yes.
Lakini ukifika pale uambiwe magistrate ni mgonjwa, leo sijui prosecutor hayuko, kesho yake uambiwe file imepotea. We need to work on those things as a leadership, so that at the end of the day people can actually get justice kama kuna vitu kama hizo zinafanyika. So kwa sababu wanajua wewe kwanza kulipa ticket utoke leo kuje huku, uache job haulipu hizo time zenye umetravel, alafu ukae Kenya all that time, unapoteza pesa every time you are outside your job environment. So if we don't fix those things, hizi vitu zitaendelea.
Okay. Number to call, 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. Of course, we are with Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna in studio. I can see a couple of comments coming in here. Delphine kutoka Papa Maryland is saying Mhesh wa nguvu. Karibu sana Delphine, thank you for tuning in. And then Delphine is further saying passport, ID needs a whole overhaul. Correct. So those are things that I think we are gonna, Senator has put himself on fire here that he will be speaking on behalf of the diaspora, and it's on record, so we will be following up with him on this issue. Na hapa Steven JJ kutoka Dallas anasema wengine wakishapata pesa wanazima simu mteja. Frustrations kibao. And I also want to welcome, our fellow panelists who are not here in studio, but wanatusikiza. So I have DJ Moshfire, who's already tuned in on Zoom. DJ Moshfire, karibu sana. There's a number of questions you had for Senator Sifuna about Nairobi County. So dakika moja mbili, DJ Moshfire, talk to us and salimia Senator Sifuna and let him know the quick question you had about issues on Nairobi County. Karibu sana DJ Moshfire.
You're on mute.
You need to unmute yourself.
Okay, so mnasema mimi najua kutumia hii kitu. Rudi kwa studio.
Haya, Omosh.
Yani this guy came with a lot of nini. Karibu senator.
Nakuona DJ Omosh. Nakusikia.
Asante.
Hapo iko sawa.
Sasa unajua sisi I think sisi sote hapa ni watu wa Nairobi. Na tumekukaribisha. Lakini hii Nairobi yetu tunaona iko na vitu mob ambazo zinatupiga butwa. So maswali ziko mob. Sasa sijui hata nianze na wapi, lakini at least naweza uliza tu a couple of different maybe 1, 2, 3 questions, then unaweza ingiana na pale unaweza ona unaweza kutusaidia nazo. So I think the first one nitauliza ni mambo ya barabara za Nairobi. So kuna hizi tolls ambazo tunakusanya kutoka, I think it's inaitwaje hiyo, the road that goes the expressway. So hizo pesa za toll zinaenda wapi juu? Kama zinakusanywa zinaenda kwa county ama zinarudi hapa kwa kutengeneza mabarabara ama ni kutengeneza tu hiyo barabara yenyewe? So does that mean that hizo pesa za toll zinatumika tofauti na vile zinakusanywa ama zinachukuliwa ama ni aje? The other one also pia sasa ni mambo ya building permits na constructions za Nairobi. Kuna area kama tuseme tuseme Westlands, Kilimani, Lavington, some areas that are very saturated na population. Kuna very high density of population, lakini services may not necessarily be coming in those areas, tuseme including Langata na areas kama vitu kama maji, electricity, schools, drainage, vitu kama hizo. Why are we still issuing permits for building in those areas, yet we don't have the facilities or we can't sustain the population growth as it comes in? Then na hapo pia niliongeza na maji juu kuna mob water shortages.
Okay.
Entire Nairobi.
A number of issues hapo Omosh. Wacha Senator kwanza tackle hapo mpaka imebidi kunywe maji kidogo. Wacha tackle hapo kwanza.
Nimeona.
Yeah. Wacha takulizo hapo kwanza alafu utaingia and then Mika pia kona swali tutamuingiza Mika hapo baadaye kidogo. Senator, so talk to Omosh Fire.
Kwanza wewe Omosh nakuletea t-shirt yenye nasema Nairobi Bear. Unauliza Senator wa Nairobi maswali na umevaa
Kisumu Bear.
Violation hiyo hapo. Ni violation makosa bro. Ama
hiyo ungecheza tu chini. Cheza tu chini
wewe mwenyewe ungecheza chini.
Hakuna haja nini tupigane hapa.
Nakupatia ya Nairobi. So number one, the easiest hapo ni story ya toll ya expressway. Expressway is a private road. It was built by private money under concession. So pesa yote inaokotwa kutoka kwa expressway inaenda kulipa kwa constructor wa hiyo barabara.
Okay.
It's a private road. Ilifanywa under an arrangement inaitwanga PPP.
Yeah.
So PPP inakuaga unakuja unajenga infrastructure, unajilipa kutokana na usage ya hiyo infrastructure na pesa unaokota hapo.
Okay.
Alafu sasa after 30 years kuna kitu inaitwa build operate transfer. After hiyo umeshatengeneza pesa yako, you can actually transfer the road back to or whatever infrastructure it is that you have built back to the government. So the expressway yenye iko sahi Nairobi, it's a private road. All the tolls go towards payment of the cost, ama defraying the cost of building, na of course profit ya huyo jamaa alijenga hiyo mradi. But roads Kenya generally zinakuwa maintained na kitu inaitwa fuel road maintenance levy. Road maintenance levy inakatwa kwa mafuta. Every time you buy a liter of petrol, there's a component that goes to that, and it is supposed to be used for upgrading roads. Has been a very big fight, because we in the Senate who believe in devolution and the way that it was structured, we believe that the constitution, if you look at the 4th schedule, distinguishes between which roads are supposed to be done by national government and the ones that are supposed to be done by county governments.
Yeah.
So shida ni kwamba the people who got a first opportunity to implement this constitution 2013 wakichaguliwa kina Ruto na Uhuru, they were not people who believed in this constitution. In fact, they have actively tried to kill devolution, which is why Ali, even when the constitution says kwamba county roads zitakuwa maintained na county governments, wali introduce national government agencies zinajiita Kenya Rural Roads na kuna Kenya Urban Roads Authority. So Kenya Urban Roads Authority unakuta ndio wako na pesa ya kufanya nini? Barabara. There has been a big fight. In fact, the matter is now in court. When Parliament tried to remove RMLF from the control of county governments. Unanielewa? Counties ndio walienda kotini wakasema wanafaa wapatiwe
kind of
road maintenance levy fund.
Yeah, so kind of like the money went, the
function
went to the county.
Function iko kwa county,
but pesa
lakini do iko
juu
kwa national government. And it is a bad situation. There are many functions, including health. Kama health ni devolved, why do we have institutions of a national government kama KEMSA? So there's a problem there. But the money that we get from RMLF is the one that is supposed to be used for this maintenance of roads in Nairobi and all the other places, because that is what the fund was set up to do. Now, in terms of construction of new roads, you need very serious capital outlay to do a road in Kenya.
Yeah.
And most of the major highways are supposed to be done by the national government. Kenya, as it is right now, is looking very keenly at these PPP models, because the sort of money that is required to do, say, a dual carriageway from Mombasa to Malaba is so huge that we would have to go and take loans from wherever it is that we can get the money.
IMF.
And build IMF, the Chinese, whatever it is. If you remember the conversation around it, kulikuwa na company ya US inaitwa Bechtel, wenye walikuwa make your proposal wajenge hiyo toll road. And you see the beauty with these PPPs is that the government or the people, the taxpayer, doesn't have to put out any money in the beginning. Hakuna pesa tulilipa ati ya kujenga expressway. Wanakuja na pesa yao wanajenga, alafu wale watu wanatumia wanalipishwa. But for as long as there is the public road alternative inabaki kwa wale wase wenye, kwa sababu hizi barabara tulikuwa tushajenga na pesa yetu. So hawezi kuweka tolling kwa barabara zenye tulijenga for free. So recently kulikuwa na suggestion ilitoka Kenya. Wakasema ati wanataka kuweka toll kwa Thika Road na Southern Bypass.
I heard that.
I objected to that, because we already paid for those roads by our taxes. Kibaki built the Thika Road using Kenyan money. Unanielewa? Alafu iwezekani tumekuwa tukitumia barabara for free, alafu leo muamke mseme tunataka kuweka tolling hapo. Haiwezekani. Wacha gava ijenge barabara mpya, itafute concessionaire ajenge barabara mpya, alafu wakate toll hapo. Hakuna shida. But huwezi kuja kuweka tolling kwa Southern Bypass. Hata kuniambia kwa mfano there's a new road that has been done recently. Is he speaking?
No, yo. Mute, please mute your Zoom. No, he's okay.
Yeah. So kuna barabara mpya inaitwa Dongo Kundu Bypass ya kule Mombasa, ya kutoka side za mainland kuingia mpaka kwenda mpaka Kwale. So the problem hiyo ni at least ni barabara mpya. Hata ukisema unaweka tolling, hakuna vile nini watu watacomplain sana. And there is also a public option ya kwamba bado ferries zitakuwa. Lakini huwezi anza kutuambia unataka kutoll the Nakuru Nairobi highway na hakuna kitu umefanya pale. Ile hiyo barabara ni yetu tulijenga.
So hiyo ni kama kusema umenunua nyumba alafu baadaye unakuja kuitishwa rent ya nyumba ambayo umenunua tayari.
That is the best example you can give in terms of explaining what I was saying. The second question alikuwa ameuliza story ya building permits, and I agree with him. Infrastructure ya Nairobi has not grown. Ukiangalia infrastructure ya kusupply maji, sewage, all of those roads and other amenities
still the same.
It's still the same from this time when this city was built. If you look at the sewage situation, for instance, and even the capacity of the city to collect garbage, we are not there, my friend. Unakuta watu walikuwa naishi kwa kama huko Lavi kulikuwa na maplots, mtu anaishi labda kwa eka moja. So in an area of say 10 acres, there were 10 residents.
Yes.
Watu wenye wanatumia hiyo maji na wanatumia hiyo sewage. Unakuta wamepeana license kwa Chinese, amejenga kwa a quarter an acre, kuna nyumba so 3 hapo.
Wow.
So wanatumia the same infrastructure. So I agree with those people who are saying that these unplanned developments in Nairobi are unsustainable.
It's the same thing. I grew up in Nairobi West.
Yeah.
Na Nairobi West has become
Nairobi West,
problematic.
you cannot recognize Nairobi West.
I totally can't recognize it. Nikienda huko, I sometimes even have to be shown around how to...
Enda umoja wanu
Umoja is also another area.
Kila mahali it's like that. So we need to be able to do these things in an orderly fashion. But you see, the problems of Kenya are bigger than just one county government. Kwa sababu utaona there is a lot of issues to do with corruption hapa, and you influence hawa watu wanajenga hizo nyumba ni kina nani? Hawa watu wanajenga hizo nyumba ni kina nani?
Sasa msando nyinyi
tueleze.
Nakwambia,
nakwambia, so the agencies zenye zina deal na corruption Kenya, that is the biggest problem. That is the biggest problem. Unakuta mtu zoning iko pale wanasema you cannot build more than 15 floors. Lakini mtu anakuja anapigwa yake anaambiwa floor 3 za juu ni zako. Inajengwa 22 floors. Unanielewa? So for as long as tunaendelea kukua na watu corrupt kwa hii system, hakuna kitu tutaachieve. Hata everything unaona hii kitu ni mbaya, lakini at the end of the day kwa sababu ya environment ile tunaoperate ndani, unakuta hizi vitu bado zinafanywa.
Okay, sawa. And OneMic here hapa Muturi alikuwa na question about iyo corruption, what EACC was actually saying compared to what you are talking about, the conflict of interest bill. Because ulikuwa umeingizwa shimoni pia wewe. Watu walikuwa wamesema ati huyu Senator Sifuna hapa anasema kitu moja hapa na kirudi kule Senate vote yake inaonyesha vingine. So there was that, there was what EACC was saying, and there was your explanation. So maybe Mike, just explain, like what your thoughts were or what you were thinking and what you wanted to ask about EACC versus the conflict of interest bill.
I think it was first trying to understand what the conflict of interest bill initially was, what it is. Because what was circulating was this idea and a notion that the politicians are trying to pass bills or trying to pass laws where they can open and they can for lack of a better word flagrantly just collaborate with the government. So you can have, like maybe like a leave, you're a member of parliament, you can have your wife or your kids or your son or your whatever bid
doing business with the government.
It's ideally doing business with the government.
Okay.
And that was, and what was going on was that the Senate or the senator side, they're trying to enforce that. That's what EACC was coming about. So there was a time he was having a conversation on Spice, and he was trying to explain what the Senate was actually doing vis-a-vis what EACC and how EACC was lying about it. Maybe he could touch upon that, because sometimes people just read short comments and then they don't highlights
tosha,
and that's it. And then you're forever castigated,
and then you're crucified.
Totally. But because
unajua it was a very interesting time. Unajua we are in an era where kwanza Kenya sahi watu wamejam 24/7 people are just angry, and they need a place to direct that anger. And then there is an industry that is dedicated to hunting for outrage. What is this one thing we can say today to keep the anger going? Because I don't understand. It started with tuliambiwa ati tumejiongezea mishahara. You remember that story?
I remember that.
The people online wakapiga kelele, ndio hao hapa wakapiga kelele, wanalia sijui Sifuna amejiongezea pesa. Ukabuza, okay, nimejiongezea pesa wapi hiyo ikaisha. Wakakuja wakaanza hiyo mambo ya conflict of interest. Nitakupatia example 3 bill 3 zenye watu walikuwa naongea kitu yenye haiko. The first one ilikuwa hiyo conflict of interest bill. Wakaamka wakasema kina Sifuna wamepitisha sheria inasema ati naweza fanya biashara na serikali.
Yeah.
Kabla uexplainie watu, wamekutusi, wamekuita umbwa. Kwanza umbwa ndio the best the favorite batusi siku hizi, alafu kuna ingine sijui kama naweza sema on air.
Unaweza sema.
Kuna unasikia jidishi unaona boss hamna ingine, simtafute batusi pia. Sasa ya tatu walikuja wakasema ati tumepitisha sheria inasema ati watu watakuwa wanapiga kura ndani ya gari. Sijui kama unakumbuka hiyo story.
Yeah, walikuwa wanasema mobile, I think mobile polling stations. Yeah.
Na unaona in all those 3 instances, alafu wakakuja juzi hii ya Ndengu. Wanasema ati Senate imepitisha sheria ati ukipanda Ndengu unafungwa. Ama sijui unapigwa fine ya shilingi milioni 1. All of those instances Ali. There was nothing like that. There was nothing like that. So hii conflict of interest, wacha tuanzie hapo. Unajua conflict of interest kwanza iko defined kwa sheria zetu iko saizi as a law. Yeah? So what usually happens is there are almost 3 pieces of legislation zinaongelelea the same thing. 3 of them. Kuna Leadership and Integrity Act iko na section kuhusu conflict of interest. Kuna Public Officer Ethics Act iko na section ya conflict of interest. Ukiangalia the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Act yenyewe iko na section on conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Now, kama watu ambao tunajua sheria, inatakiwa ukipelekwa, kwa sababu hii ni criminal conduct has to be specific and defined. Ukipelekwa kotini juu ya conflict of interest, magistrate anafaa kujua ni sheria gani anatumia. Na ni moja, it has to be clear that this is the criminal conduct and this is the punishment for that conduct. So when you have pieces of legislation zenye zinaongelelea the same thing and they are scattered across several laws, what usually happens is you consolidate, unatoa hizo provisions from all the other bills, munakuja na bill moja yenye na deal na nini? Conflict of interest. Tumeelewana?
A consolidated bill.
One bill.
Okay.
So you will see in that bill, you will see wanasema delete section this of the Anti-Corruption and Ethics Act. That same section that is saying is talking about conflict of interest, then you see it in the new bill. Delete the one in the Ethics and Anti-Corruption, delete the one in the Public Officer Ethics Act, munazileta kwa bill moja. Now, the conflict of interest bill ile tulipitisha Senate, it is still a crime for you to conduct yourself in a manner where there is conflict. It is still a crime. Punishable, Ali, by a jail term of 10 years.
So to be clear,
it is there.
It is a crime.
Yes.
To
conflict of interest is
to
a
position
crime.
yourself,
to use information, for instance, that comes to you by virtue of your position, to enrich yourself, to award tenders to your friends if you are in a position of influencing that tender award. All of those things are criminal. They are defined as criminal in the bill itself.
But let's be clear here. But it's not a crime to do business with government as long as it's not
like you now.
No,
if you have no conflict of interest, you can do business with government.
No, I'm talking about an elected official. For an elected official,
that's what I'm telling you. If there exists conflict, for instance, I am a senator, right?
Yeah.
If the Senate is putting out a tender for purchase of pens, can I, in all honesty, get that tender or even apply for that tender?
No, you can't.
I cannot, because that information has come to me by virtue of the fact that I am a member of the Senate.
But then as a senator,
it is a crime.
Yeah, but then as a senator, you can still do business with government.
As a Kenyan, you can do business
in
with
other
any
areas.
Yes, well, for as long as there is no conflict of interest.
The reason why
the definitions of conflict are there.
Okay.
Unaona?
Yeah,
they are there.
The reason why naulizai mzee wangu aliniambia back in the days, I think in the 70s, but, elected officials were actually not allowed to do business of any kind.
In fact, for me, I support that position. Yeah. And if you look at the Azimio Manifesto of 2022, we had said, for as long as you are a member of Azimio, you will not do business with the Azimio government. It was there. So when did I change? I have not changed. That is the position of ODM. That is my position, even today. But for people to just wake up one day and start saying, oh, wamepitisha. What we want to do with anger, I was in the university, I had a very good lecturer. He told me, anger is a good thing. Anger brings change. When people are angry, they are moved to action. Yeah. But that anger has to be righteous anger, and it has to be informed anger. Don't get upset before you understand. Understand first, and then get upset. Then we can all do something together.
Sawa. We have Senator Edwin Sifuna ndani ya studio. I'm going to read a couple of comments here, and I'm going to, let Mika, bring it his question shortly. Comments have been coming in thick and fast. Oh my goodness. So many comments here. I can see Indefatigable Wanjeri all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, anasema good evening and karibu Senator. Adhiambo Odak from right here in Maryland anasema wacha nizime AC nimwone Senator vizuri. So I don't know what the AC
inamfunga macho.
I don't know what's going on there. Maybe at this
the temperatures are rising.
Yeah. And then Udi Madhenge hapa from Atlanta, Georgia. Unaona hapa tuko people from all over the country. Anasema Senator, my issue is that I saw is underdeveloped projects. Karen now looks like Rongai. Isli looks like Madare. Madare is now a sewage. That's Udi Madhenge. And then, like Washeke, anamwambia this, I think they're discussing, wanapenda smile ya senator. So sijui what the smile has, but they somehow like your smile. Alafu hapa, I have Val Gidhae kutoka hapa pa DMV. Val Gidhae says, please ask Sifuna why he has calmed down the last month after his people were given positions in government. Is he really for us? So hapa, Val, we're gonna come back to this question because this question is very loaded. And then we have hapa Steve Gitao. Apo Senator, you can note that question here, Val Gidhae. Steve Gitao also has a question. Anasema, welcome Sifuna. Can you speak on the 35% threshold of SRC is meant to maintain on the annual wage bill and is measured by the last revenue collection, and who keeps SRC accountable each year to maintain this threshold? So write down that question too. And then we have another view hapa anaitwa Victorious Karendi. You raised a concern in Parliament about the need for an audit on how resources are used, e.g. faith intercessors, office of the first ladies, total misuse of public funds. In our capacity in your capacity as senator, what are you doing about it? Kenya feels like it is them against the political class and no one to fight for them. Apa Wanjeri from Boston anasema that people believe all these things is a reflection of the failures of the government and the fact that our leaders lie too much. Therefore, anything sounds believable. In reality, though, is the conflict of interest bill adhered to question mark. And then Ruth, Apa, the last one from Facebook. So what bill did you vote on that was not clear on that? And then I saw that there was also some comments coming on YouTube. My goodness, what were YouTube leo pia wameamka. First one from Daniel Njuguna. Ask Sifuna why those immigration officers at JKIA are very unwelcoming and intimidative to Kenyans, especially those traveling to the US. And then Kare Hasakala anauliza, mbona drainage mbovu Nairobi nzima? Hakuna storm drains.
Nikeri Hasakala.
Oh, Nikeri. Okay.
Yes, Bwana Sifuna knows who Hasakala is.
Okay. Unajua Nairobi West kwa tunasema carry. Unajua si Nairobi West accent yetu ilikuwa tofauti. But anyway, hapa Pius Tora anasema ni Val anasema, please ask Sifuna why he has it's the same question that he asked. Okay. Unaona, people are touching all bases. They want to make sure their questions are not missed. And I promise I will read all your questions. And then Governor Mwaura George Mwaura, tunakufanya governor tayari hapa. Anasema governor could not explain 1.2 billion for his expenditure. Explain the way forward. And then Apo Kare again anasema, why are we not considering subway transportation systems in Nairobi to reduce traffic jam? Mambo ya land rates imekuwa shida. Some of us pay land rates on properties we are not enjoying its use. Lands have allowed other people to occupy and even issued titles to our property. So maswali yenyu yote itajibiwa.
Na tuko na 2 callers.
Okay, before we get to the callers, I think we're going to go to Mika. To Mika first. Mika has been waiting hapo patiently. So Mika
mpaka ameenda gym.
Naona ameenda gym, naona mpaka miwani imekuwa polished. Mika, karibu sana. Talk to Senator Sifuna.
Kwanza mnaongeaje nikasiendangi gym ati mpaka nimeenda gym.
Okay.
Anyway, Senator Sifuna, how are you? And I hope your travels were safe and nice. I hope you enjoyed the Democratic National Convention.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to say I don't know if everybody has ever told you thank you, but I want to say thank you for that day during Occupy Parliament when you went and stood in front of those two policemen who were shooting and actually managed to stop them from shooting into crowds. Thanks for that. That you risk your own life putting yourself in front of the gun that was aimed, and that saved several lives that day. So I want to say that I'll say thank you for you. I'll give you flowers for that. Now, Mike, I know swali yangu, my question is more on in terms of as where Val is coming from, where everybody's else, and I'm sure 99% of the listeners here actually would like to speak more about what happened after the demonstration. Like we were told, you guys were there with us for the first days, and then all of a sudden we were told the party leader Baba akaambiwa kaa home, akasema anakaa home. Then kidogo tuko nakaanza kujitokeza, one day anasema ameitwa dialogue, mara anasema aendi dialogue. Like he said like 3 times he's not going to dialogue with the government, then dialogue with the government. Then the next thing we're hearing is a formation of a broad-based government, and your party gets a few people elected. So that means, so one of the things, clarity is that we have some of the people on your party saying you're not part of government, that those are just people who are nominated, but they happen to be from your party. So are you guys part of government? And if not, are those people who are in government from your party going to leave that party and join government completely and be part of government? So that you know a clarity on where ODM stands in terms of serving the people, or is it in terms of part of the government? And then another thing is that now that you're part of if you are part of the government and now you're part of the government, what are you going to ensure that you were supporting during the demonstration? And now we can see some members of your party like Mbadi supporting parts of the finance bill that were actually the contentious part that people didn't want. And is that the stand of your party? And in this time, tukubali tumechezwa ama tukubali kuna vitu enda kufanyika? Because at the end of the day, a lot was brought out. But kenye ilifanyika ni hiyo punda ilienda ikaoshwa ikarudi. And everything just seems to be the same. The only difference is the people who lost their lives and the people who were hurt and maimed. Thank you.
Okay, asante sana. Mika, now callers, stay tuned.
Yes, you're next.
What are the last 4 numbers of the next call?
3178 and 2059.
So 3178 and 2059 in that order. We're going to come to you. But we're going to give an opportunity to Senator to first of all answer those questions that came in thick and fast from Mika and from the people who are commenting on both Facebook and YouTube. Senator.
Yeah, let me start with Mika. Thank you for your kind words. Yes, there were many people who expressed gratitude and support for what I tried to do on the 25th of June, which was one of the darkest days in the history of Parliament and in the history of the country. It was very heartbreaking to see, police firing live rounds into a group of young people who were trying to access Parliament. And my going there was to try and have a conversation with him and tell them that, in fact, Parliament buildings is just that. They are just buildings. Even if they are burnt down or brought down, we can always rebuild them. But you cannot rebuild a life once a life has been lost. And sadly, I couldn't do enough because, unfortunately, almost 8 people were shot outside Parliament.
Okay.
And we continue to commiserate with their families of the ones who lost their lives. And I wish that I could have done more so that nobody died that day. I was willing to go and speak to the young people there to just go. Or, nobody needed to die there. And my position continues to be, Ali, that nobody needs to die at a protest. Nobody needs to die at a protest. And you will see that ever since that day, we have pushed very hard the speakers of the 2 houses of Parliament to now provide a square for protests inside Bunge. Because as it is right now, people protest on Parliament Road out there, and then members of Parliament walk out to the road there and then receive petitions. Because Parliament is supposed to be accessible to the people, we need to find a way to make sure that people can peacefully protest at Parliament and nobody needs to die. I at least have a commitment from the Speaker of the Senate, Kingi, that the institution of Parliament is looking to set aside a space where people can come and protest daily. When I was at the DNC, when you go into the convention center itself, there were people there protesting all sorts of causes. There were people protesting the war in Gaza, the pro-Palestinian protesters, the people protesting against abortion and some of the things that the Democratic Party stands for. But they are peaceful and they are let alone. Nobody bothers with them. They do their own protest and after that they go. We want to have a situation in our country where people can protest and express frustration, present petitions without anybody having to die. And I'm happy that at least in Parliament they are considering that. Now, ODM is not in government. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say this, but I understand the frustration that has been expressed by Mika and even with other people. People are disappointed. They're saying we took advantage of the young people and the young protesters. But Ali, context and history is important. Let me tell you that we in 2023, and you saw all of those things, in 2023 we led protests in Nairobi against the very same government and basically having the same issues. Over 100 people died, Ali. Over 100 people died during the protests that were being led by ODM and the opposition. No life is greater than the other, and we don't mean to demean the achievements of the young people. But it is not just these 60 that have died. And every time that we speak, we say that justice has to be found for every single person who has died in protest since 2022, the election. But, so the point that I want to make is this. If we lost 100 people, over 100 people in our protest, Ali, and we didn't join government, when the opportunity was there for people to have a conversation, we never brought ourselves to the table or our issues to the table. It is out of the NADCO conversations that came out of the protests we led that we have seen some advancement on some of the issues that Kenyans were raising, including, number one, Ali, we have now concluded a new law on IEBC. It came from a discussion between government and opposition, and it was a structured discussion. If you remember, I was part of the initial team that was representing Azimio. I pulled out when I realized Kina Khalwale were dragging their feet. And when the second team was put in place that was led by Kalonzo, they achieved some things. We have made some milestones out of conversations with government, the NADCO conversations, including amendments to the elections laws that will now make it mandatory that if you are IEBC and you procure technology for elections, you must buy that technology so that we will never be told that we can't audit our servers because of IP laws. That is contained in an amendment that is before Parliament now. It came from that discussion. Now, let me ask you, when did we start being greedy? But during the 2023 negotiations, why didn't we present names to cabinet?
Let me pause you. Let me pause you there for a moment.
Yes.
Into why, and now let me not even now speak as the host of the OneMic show. Because on this show we're usually open about like our politics and our political choices. I'll tell you, me personally, I voted for Baba. Since I was able to, since 2007. Bakaleo, I voted for Baba in all the elections. So I'm in multiple groups, ODM groups, Azimio groups, with people back home, with people over here. So I just want to explain to you, and you've already talked to a lot of people, but I just want to explain to you where people are coming from, and I understand the semantics of it wasn't ODM, it was these 4 or 5 individuals.
I have not even come to that. You should have waited for me to explain, and then you'll give me your perspective. But I was just giving you background and historical context that in fact it is an unfair accusation, although I understand where people are coming from. Ali, I will ask you a question. Between the period where after the last protest, say June 25th, and I'm telling you, all of us were supporting these young people. We wanted them to succeed without anyone having to die, because that is what the Constitution says. On the 25th of June, I thought that they had come the closest, and I wish they never broke their momentum. I wish they had gone on. During that entire period, we were being told as politicians to stay away. We were doing our very little things here and there, undercovers. We were helping people when they go to hospital. We were getting people bailed out of police stations with the Law Society of Kenya. You can check with the president of the LSK how many people are bailed out of the police custody without speaking, without saying that we're actually doing it. Because a national movement such as the one that the young people began has to bring all of us together. The outcome of that movement affects all of us. So we are all invested, even though they were saying they don't want anything to do with us. Now, Between the time the young people took over parliament and the time that Ruto dissolved his cabinet and named a fresh cabinet, how long was it?
I think that was it was like was it a 2-week period? It was a very short
It was
time.
longer than 2 weeks.
It was 3 weeks.
It was longer than 2 weeks, and that's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
That there is no day, we as ODM,
Yeah.
and I want to speak authoritatively as SG, we have not told the young people to stop going to the streets. We cannot object. Even today, if they decided that they were going to kick out Ruto plus Mbadi and plus who else, Oparanya, let them do it. Nobody has said that you are now a stop from doing those protests, because it was led by them. There is an action by the political class should not affect you, because they were doing it without us anyway.
Yes.
Now, we come to this conversation about whether ODM has joined government or not. I will give you the example of what happened in South Africa. After the elections in SA, when the ANC realized they didn't have a majority, they sat down on a table like this with the DA and they hammered out a deal during which you have a conversation about we have different perspectives about life and the priorities for the people. Which ones are you willing to give up and which ones am I going to give up, so that we come up with a fresh document, a fresh manifesto. We shred the UDA manifesto, shred the Azimio manifesto, come up with a manifesto that will address the issues of the young people. That process has never happened. If there was a deal between UDA and the ODM, I would know, because as a Secretary General, I am the one to sign that deal. There is no such deal. What happens is Ruto has access to all these political leaders. He has access to all of them. He can call them and ask them, why would you be willing to consider? Now, his motivations are for you to ask him. He can explain why he was motivated to pick Mbadi. Because as I said, Mbadi knows nothing about bottom-up. I know him. He has been my chairman all this time. So these people, it is incumbent upon them. When they are called as individuals and asked to join cabinet, it is their decision. I don't share in that decision. Even now, when people ask me, he has asked me about, say, governmental policy right now. I cannot speak for government. I'm not government. If you want to, government has its own spokesperson. They are there, Kina Mwaura are there, and the others, Kina Hussein Mohammed. They can come here and explain government policy. Me, as a legislator, and knowing full well that ODM is not part of this government, you will see that we will continue to hold these people to account. And in fact, the members of ODM expect that we will do that. We will continue to do our jobs as an opposition political party. So I want to say categorically here, and this is the position we have stated. Number one, these individuals are available for the president to tap them. Anyone in Kenya can be tapped by the president. That does not bind the political party called ODM. That is why they resigned from their positions as officials of ODM, you know? So these accusations, people are throwing us mad at us because we are a low-hanging fruit. Wanasema also sisi huwa tumekuwa tumejiekelea juu sana in terms of ideals. And the expectation, of course, is when we appear to sleep or when we give explanations that are not satisfactory, of course we will be attacked. I totally get that. But in the fullness of time, the truth will emerge. And you will continue to see us doing our job as the opposition party. So maybe you can.
So the
Senator,
issue here.
Senator, I have one interjection in something that you said.
Okay, go ahead, Mika. Go ahead, Mika.
So, I'm glad that you are able to say, as a party, as the SG, you don't know anything about what's happening, and that ODM didn't get into this. But then, when you say that just a political action should not interfere with how the people are doing, let's be honest here. Baba was caught on camera saying several times, "Don't go to the streets."
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Let me explain.
Hold up.
Let me explain the question of the national conversation. You know, because that one is what you are referring to, saying that it was time to dialogue. I myself read multiple statements calling for a national conversation. There is a difference between a national conversation and a dialogue between two political parties. The national conversation, just let me explain. You know, at some point, Ali, you must allow me to explain. If you have a better explanation, then come and sit in my seat. But I am being honest with you. I'm telling you, the national conversation that we had proposed, and by the way, even when these young people were resisting that national conversation, do you know it is happening? See, I saw them the other day with the president in a town hall. That is exactly what we had proposed for them. We said, let us get the leadership of the country in one room. Right? And let these young people vent and tell them off and tell them what they want to see with their country, what they want us to do with the country. But we could not continue in that situation where Ruto is not going and the young people are not relenting. Nairobi is a ghost town every single day. I represent people both at the lower spectrum of life and at the high spectrum. I represent individuals. I represent businesses. The CBD being closed for weeks on end is not something that any leader wants to see. How do you resolve the impasse? We said, can these young people, if you are going to do it, please do it. We support you. But if it is not going to happen, what is the alternative? We have to sit down and talk. And we were not talking about people getting positions in government. I can tell you, Ali, that nothing has changed. The anger that the young people had is still there because we have not seen any commitment from Ruto to make any changes. Okay. Appointing Mbadi, it does not address the issues that the youth have raised. And for as long as those issues are not addressed, this issue is not going to go away. But you have to have a conversation. You have to have a conversation as a country.
Okay, let Mika make his last point, and then we're going to go to the other questions. And Watwala Simu, we are going to come to you. Please be patient with us. Mika.
Okay. So, and Senator, I'm glad you said something that the anger is not there, and you said something that something here. So let me tell you something. Like Ali, I'm not going to speak as a presenter of the OneMic show. I'm going to present as Mika, somebody who has voted for Baba since I got my first voter's card in the year 2000, and I voted for Baba the first time in 2002. And I voted
2007 or two was Kibaki.
I voted for Baba because I voted in Langata.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm saying this is somebody that I've given my vote for every election. Up even in 1997, I was living in Dubai, flew to Kenya and voted for him. The only election I didn't vote for was 2013 when I was here in the States. Okay, so apart from that, this is somebody who's a Baba follower. This is somebody who has friends in both spectrums of my generation, which is the millennials. I have a Gen Z child and I have Gen Z family and Gen Z friends. As somebody who has connections between Nairobi and Kenya and Busia, and this is somebody who is involved in every day-to-day life. And I will tell you just conversation-wise, wacha tutoe siasa sasa. News among ground, kitu yenye iko kwa ground, and this is what people saw that demoralized them from going to the demonstration. Because at one point, demonstration walikuwa wamesema ni ya mababi pekee, right? Ni mapanga. Ni watu wa KFC na iPhones. People came out from, and then guess what? The young people all have the same issues. They came out from all sides of the country. Every area, it no longer became about KFC and iPhones. It became about the young people and what they want to be done better in the country. The factors that demoralized them, when they told Baba stay out of this, and Baba stayed out of it, and they told politicians to stay out of it, and then politicians were coming in, and the reason why people were and the reason why people say they came in and they say, we know this is going to cause a battle. We are hoping that nobody takes advantage of this, and they felt that ODM came and took advantage, because the demoralization started, number one, when abductions became free and willy, and they were being abducted every now and everywhere. Everybody, that became a scare tactic. Number two, when the government was formed, the broad-based government that he's talking about was formed. And number three, when politicians from your side of the aisle told people to stay. I even have tweets from Honorable Kaluma telling people, Baba amesema tunaenda huku, I do not want any more demonstration, I don't want any maandamano. So you cannot say that he did not say that, while there are clips on the internet, not on the national conversation. Boss. National conversation was you.
Mika.
You know,
Mika.
There's a difference between Baba and there's a difference between you.
Let's
and
be
Baba
honest
himself,
here.
Baba himself.
Let's be honest, Mika. Mika, I will accept, just a minute. I will accept your position, whether you don't want to support us anymore, whether you've given up on Baba, whether you've given up on Sifuna, but I want it to be informed. No, we said let us be informed. No. Number one, Mika, you are jumping over a few facts. Number one, let me give you those facts. On the day when these young people said they were going to State House, who are the people who were saying don't go to State House? Was it Raila?
No,
it was the leader. It was just a minute. It was the young people themselves and the people who are the loudest voices in this particular movement, those accounts are there saying at this one is a different issue altogether. This is not like parliament. Sijui State House is a protected area. That is what was taking the fire from the movement. Number two,
I agree that
after the rejection of the finance bill, what were the young people themselves saying? You did not hear Sifuna saying now you cannot go on with the movement. Many of the young people themselves, and we follow these conversations, were saying the reason we were in the streets is the finance bill. Now that the president has abandoned it, we no longer have the reason to go to the streets. The movement turned on itself. I was following these conversations.
But
Number
remember,
three,
Senator,
by the time Ruto is saying he's disbanding his government, you can see other people also saying now, we have achieved what it is that we wanted, we need to stop. There were different voices. They were no longer speaking in the same voice that we saw prior to this. So for you to come and tell us that it is Raila who told people not to go to State House, it is there. It is there online. Even today I can open those accounts. So please,
Senator, when you
wacha tukosane kwa ukweli, lakini si ati tukosane na uongo. Tuambiane ukweli.
Haya, Mika, 1 minute, kuna watu kwa simu wanataka ongea. 1 minute, Mika.
I'm finishing up real quick. So, Senator, you've told me to be factual. Also, be factual. I have not said that I said Raila went. Okay, also, you be factual. Don't say I've mentioned Raila told people not to go to State House.
The clips you are talking about, what clips were you saying?
No. I said when he said it's time for conversation. He said it's time for conversation. He said it. And before the show is over, I'm going to pull clips for you. And I will show you.
And you tell me, you put those two things together. Tell me Raila saying it's time for conversation and young people themselves saying don't go to State House. What is it that punctured the movement?
No, I did not say don't go to State House. Again, Senator, be factual with what I'm saying. I'm not saying don't go to State House. I said it's time to State House, get out of the streets and continue demonstrating. And then to add to your fact, you've said the truth. There were a lot of demoralizing things that happened, but the final nail on the coffin on this protest that came in when they felt there was a betrayal from the opposition.
Somebody who, how can you be betrayed by somebody who was not part of you?
All
that
right.
is the question you need to answer.
Mika, Senator, we're gonna get back to that. Want to remind the listeners that you're tuned in to the OneMic show. Number to call is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Things heating up in the studio, and I like this because I think it's important, for Senator also to feel the temperatures that are also there in the diaspora, and the one other thing that I will also say is that there's the maybe the factual side of things, but then there's also the perspective or how people feel, perception, or how people think, which sometimes trumps like everything else. But anyway, still Senator will still answer a couple of questions that you're gonna be asking
now, because I had written down 10 questions that you had read from Facebook. I want to tie this
Facebook,
yes.
Okay.
I want to tie this to something that I think it was
callers, we're gonna get to you.
Is
be
it
patient.
Wanderi or somebody who said
Wanderi, yeah.
Yes, that leaders lie too much. Now, let me tell you this, and I will admit here that there is a serious deficit of trust between political class in Kenya and the electorate, which is why when we explain things, people don't want to believe us. And we have caused this ourselves because of the conduct of politicians over the years and people saying things that they don't believe in or so on and so forth. I understand that. And there is a difference between you perceiving something and it being a fact. The truth does not change depending on whether you believe it or not. The truth remains the truth. We can disagree. You say you don't believe me, but it is the truth. I will not force my truth on you, and you cannot force your perception on me. One of the things I've decided to do, Ali, I will tell my own story. We will tell our own story.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you believe us or not, because at the end of the day, in fullness of time, the truth has a way of coming out. I have been crucified for things that are actually not true, and I've given you examples. I've given you the Ndengu bill. And it was in the national newspaper, Daily Nation. Waliweka wakasema, Senate imepitisha sheria ya kusema ukipanda ndengu utafainiwa. It was not true. Even after an apology was rendered by that newspaper, there are still people who talk about ndengu.
Yeah.
Number two, I gave you the example of people waking up one day and saying, Senate has passed a bill that will make motor vehicles, polling stations. Mpaka hata wewe mwenyewe unaanza kudoubt, because I'm the one who passes those laws and I read every single clause of those laws. I go to my office and open that bill. There simply isn't such a provision. You come to the conflict of interest bill, they have splashed things there saying, oh, we are going to do business. You show them the law. They don't want to read, because in Kenya, when people are wrong, they would never admit. They will never admit. They will never admit that they were wrong. But can we just agree on one thing? We don't have to believe each other. The truth is not going to change. If I can see an iPad in front of you and you're seeing a basin, that is something we cannot resolve, because the distance between your perception and mine is too wide. But if I'm seeing an iPad and you're seeing a phone, then maybe we can have a conversation.
Yeah, but Senator,
the truth will remain the truth.
Yeah, I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But Senator, I'll tell you one thing. You know, like myself, Mika, and a lot of people who've supported Baba before, regardless of whether it was individuals who joined the government or whether it was the party. I mean, of course, you've told us that it was individuals and it wasn't necessarily the party. But I'm telling you, the perception that's on this other side, and that's where sometimes perception may become more important, in as far, especially if you have a political party or an institution that you're trying to put together. I can tell you the ground beneath is boiling, and those 4 or 5 individuals who chose to join government, who are part of the face of the political party, it's being perceived one way.
I understand.
At the bottom,
I understand
and
that.
it's gonna affect.
I understand that.
The support of the party.
I understand that perception.
Yeah.
Even when I explain to people that there are many within the party who did not support that move, nobody believes it. When I tell people that personally I did not support any of our members joining government, but you need to look at the profile of those people. You know, you guys behave like you don't have eyes. Why didn't you see any young dynamic leaders from ODM joining government? What is the one thing those 4 people share in common? Look at the people themselves, so that when an opportunity like that is presented to them, the likelihood of them saying yes, because of the profile, the life that they have lived, the service that they have already given, the number of years they have been in this business, they would take the opportunity. But for you to come and ascribe that to an entire political outfit so that you discredit us. And number 2, I have been SG of ODM. This is my 7th year. In November, I'm going to be the longest serving SG of ODM. ODM is a party that is not judged by parameters that any other party is judged by. I am telling you this. We have been victims of this fake outrage before. We have been victims of very negative branding. You remember when people say, oh, this ODM is a violent party. But when other people are doing it, it is very stylish.
No, and
we have
that's
had
fair.
people.
That's a fair,
we have had people.
Men in black.
Just a minute. We have had people. We have had people who confessed, including the former governor of Nairobi, confessed of burning vehicles on Ngong Road and then blaming it ODM, so that they can continue that narrative that ODM is a violent party. We understand that. This is the environment that we play in. But believe you me, Ali, the truth, if the sun rises from the east, it doesn't matter which side of the globe you are in. It will come from the east, and it will remain so.
Okay, we've been keeping the callers on hold for a while. The number is 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. We still have 2 callers on queue.
Yes, now there are 3.
Okay, now the 3 callers on queue. So just read the last 4 digits so that they know what order they come in.
3178. The order, it's like it's
okay.
listed.
So 3178, which is the other one?
2059, and lastly 7796.
Okay, so just know your position in the queue. We're gonna come to you. So let's start with the first one.
Thank you for calling the OneMic Show 3178.
Okay, please tell us your name and where you're calling from, and 1 minute comment or question. Is it 3078?
3178.
Or 3178. Going once, going twice. We'll come back to them. Go to the next caller.
All right, 2059. Thank you for calling the OneMic Show.
Your name and where you're calling from. 1 minute question or comment.
Julius Nairi from Canada via Jamaica, or vice versa.
Okay. For Jamaica, and welcome to the OneMic Show. I know you had a very burning question for the senator. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Well, I feel almost bad because I hear what's being discussed. I feel my case is like not important.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead. You took the time to give us a call, so let us know. Every question is important.
So, Senator, I am a Jamaican citizen, a descendant of an enslaved African that was transplanted many years ago to the Caribbean. There's a group of us several hundred actually, wanting to relocate to East Africa. I've been to Kenya personally 3 times. I own businesses in Kenya. I own property in Kenya. My issue is I can't come and operate in any of my businesses because the government requires 1 million Kenyan shillings, which is about 137,000 Canadian dollars. Now, as a person of color, a black person, we are somewhat financially disenfranchised all over the world. I think there should be some special dispensation for any descendant in Africa of an African who's trying to relocate to the continent. And we're looking for someone within the Kenyan government to be our champion for that. I'm not saying we're coming broke, because you can't come to Africa broke, and we're not coming to look jobs. We're coming to run businesses. But I think the $1 million price tag, 1 million shilling price tag is a bit excessive. And I'll give you an example. Canada, where I'm right now, has a program called the Owner-Operator Work Permit Visa. All you need to do to apply to that one is have a solid business plan and the financial backing to carry it out. In the States, I believe, you can come with $50,000 US and be able to operate, get a work permit for the States. So, and it's not just Kenya that have these exorbitant prices. Kenya is actually the cheapest at 100,000. Zimbabwe is 125. South Africa is 500,000. And I feel like these things were put in place to disenfranchise descendants of enslaved Africans to move back to the continent. So we're looking for a champion within the Kenyan government to be able to argue for some special dispensation for us. So those of us who wish to come back and operate businesses can do so, because it will create jobs in Kenya, and it will be a win-win for us who wanting to come back to Africa, and a win-win for Africans on the continent. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, for Jamaican. Next caller, you're gonna try to go back to the first one.
It's 7796. 7796. Thank you for calling the OneMic show. Name and where you're calling from.
Thank you so much. So this is Kevo. I'm calling from Virginia, and I just want to support my brother on the Zoom call. That the reason why we feel like we were betrayed by Raila, or rather the ODM parties, because we refuse to believe in coincidences in politics. We refuse to believe that on a day when demonstrations were going on, and then it happens to be the time when Baba comes out and happens to, go and is seen with Ruto. And then at the end of the day, when the cabinet was, was broken, and they made a whole other new cabinet, and then you see people from the ODM team forming part of the cabinet. So that is what makes us feel like a revolution of the people was hijacked by the political class. And also just to remind that I don't think even if we have the ODM in cabinet, we want to believe that Ruto as a man is the guy who seems to make too many mistakes, and I don't even think ODM will save him by coming in at this time. And that within no time, Ruto, since this was a revolution of the people, however the political class came in, then with any slight mistake that will come in, then the people will go back to the streets and we will demonstrate again. And as the people have said, we will not allow this government to be led, but we will be co-pilots of this government in everything that they do. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Do you have any other call on queue?
We have one more caller. Okay. Thank you for calling the OneMic show. 6499. Name and where you're calling from.
Hi, my name is Nancy Miratsky. I'm calling from Des Moines, Iowa. And my thing is this, Mr. Sifuna, just so you know, we were such great supporters and champion of your work. We're a little disappointed just because of the political class taking over. And I feel like people don't have a voice. So how do you guys run a government if there's no good opposition? And who is speaking on behalf of the people? Because what's happening is appalling, and we should all be very sad and upset that you guys have joined the other party. Anyway, thank you though for braving this, and thank you for being here, and actually thank you for speaking up.
All right, Nancy. Nancy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy.
So a question there from Nancy. And before you start answering the questions, let me try to pick up a couple of other questions that came in through the comments that were coming in thick and fast. And I'm gonna.
You want me to read the YouTube ones?
Yeah, go ahead and start reading the YouTube ones, and then the questions that have been repeated, we can skip them. That have already been answered, we can skip them for the sake of time.
I'm just gonna say here. So first and foremost, let me recognize Steve Okoth and Ngeno Kelvin. Karibuni sana. Pew Stora here as Val, and I think maybe this one might have been asked. All I'm hearing is the senator becoming defensive. Article 73 2A and Article 75 are clear on gross misconduct. What has he as the opposition done to make sure this clause is implemented? Iran Dunda says if it's evidence there are serious challenges ahead for ODM as a national party. If Baba, as we see, move on to win AU championship, will he or the party consider endorsing or supporting Ruto or UDA? And Lorenzo Were is asking for the number 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. That number has been posted twice by Omosh. He said that. And Karibu Sana and Seleme Harelim. Ooh, my apologies. I butcher your name.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, there's something somebody has said here that I want to reiterate. One of the callers said that this was a revolution of the people, and I agree 100%. And that at any one point, the people can go back to the streets, and I agree with that. And this is the point that I was making, that nothing is dependent upon the action of politicians. If the youth have shown us anything, is that they are able to mobilize outside the political forces. They're able to do their thing in the absence of any political leadership. And this is the point that I've been making to those people who are saying that they have that the ODM has deflated the youth movement. Number two, Nancy, I have said here, I understand why people are disappointed, but we need to have a conversation about the fairness of some of the accusations and where the blame lies. But I also understand. No, I'm not supposed to appear defensive, but I'm here to defend myself, because accusations have been leveled against me of abandoning the people. Accusations have been leveled against my political organization of hijacking a movement of the young people. What I want to say here is that I believe that in the absence of a proper address to the issues that the young people raised and that Kenyans have raised, by the way, those issues were not new. I know them like the back of my hand because I have been fighting and championing these same issues for years. Now, the thing that has happened in Kenya that I am proud of is that there used to be an artificial barrier between Mwananchi and the electorate and the elected leaders. That barrier has been brought down by the Gen Z movement, because right now every member of parliament knows that they can be gotten to. Hiyo kiburi ilikuanga pale nyuma, mtu anaambiwa you can't vote or support something like this, and then because they are sitting in Nairobi somewhere in parliament very secure, iko na polisi, iko na air conditioning mzuri, wanafikiria ati wanaweza fanya kitu kulingana na mapenzi yao na si mapenzi ya wananchi. That has been removed. Number two, there is something that has happened again, that there used to be a time when the constitution under Article 3 places the responsibility of defending our constitution and our democracy on all of us. But for the longest time, Kenyans had outsourced this responsibility to one individual, that if Raila did not speak, then nobody has spoken for the people. Right now, my brother, nobody is waiting for any of us to speak. Kenyans are speaking for themselves. You have seen young people like Morara. They are yes, that's what I'm telling you. Yeah. If you think that you can compromise one leader, or you can give Sifuna something so that he keeps quiet, the Kenyans, people will emerge. You cannot muzzle the voices of all the 55 million Kenyans. And I am happy that we are living in a greater democracy. I am very proud that people are reading bills these days. People are following parliamentary proceedings. People are asking us to explain how we voted on many things. This thing of even here in the US, it is tradition for people to call their members of Congress whenever there is a controversial bill before the floor of the House. It never used to happen in Kenya. These days, after namba zetu zisambazwe, people were being, you now have a direct access to your member of parliament, and you're able to say on this particular issue, as somebody who voted for you, the way that my brother has spoken there as a person who voted in Langata, you can tell your member of parliament that on this one I want you to stand with me and this is my position. That never used to happen in Kenya. We are living in a very new paradigm right now, because for the first time that barrier between Mwananchi and the elected leaders has been removed. And I think it can only mean well for, you know, the democracy that we want to build. Of course, there has been abuse of that access. There are people who, like now this brother of mine from Jamaica, who just wants a review of the immigration laws, the laws on business permits, the laws of naturalization. That is what you do with access to a member of parliament. Or my friend, one of my friends online, who just tagged me on a post on Twitter saying she's a mother living with a child or with special needs, and she wanted me to make an amendment to a law that we were actually considering in the Senate. And she came to my office and we discussed, and then we were able to make an amendment to the law so that they can get tax breaks for people who have children with special needs. That is what you do with access. Not sending me messages like the ones that are coming on this live feed. That is what you do with access to a member of parliament. Not to insult us every day. You are sending me one bob on M-Pesa. For what? I have not asked you for money, you know? So the access, the good things that have happened from the movement are things that we all support. And the country will never be the same again. I want us to continue like this. My one prayer is that the young people learned a lesson on the day of the voting on the finance bill. That it is one thing for you to sing in the streets that tuko wengi, but in parliament hamuko wengi. Unanielewa? Me as SG of ODM, I have my own target. People are saying, oh, the party is finished. It doesn't matter. I am going to work hard to make sure that I restore the party. Last election, we increased our numbers in parliament. My target next election is 150. I should sit down and plan and be able to put in the work to ensure that I grow the organization. Now, these young people, I hope they learned that they need 204 members of parliament. That is the 204 who voted for the bill. I am very proud of the work that I did as SG and of the party position that we stood with the people during the voting on that bill.
Yes.
So they need 204. I really wish that they could channel this energy into political action. Let people run for office. And I am not forcing anyone or inviting anyone to join ODM. It doesn't matter which political organization you are in. At the end of the day, forces for good will find each other. If after the election, ODM has its 150 members of parliament that I'm targeting, and there are 204 new Gen Z party members of parliament, we know that there are forces of good that if a bill ever comes to the House that is as bad as the finance bill of 2024, we have 359 members of parliament, both from the Gen Z and from ODM, because for me, I still believe that ODM is an organization for good, for the good of the people.
Now, when you talk about the Gen Zs and political action, taking political action, so we have a situation where there's we've not had IBC constituted since the debacle of the last election, and there's a process to reconstitute it. You know, so at the moment, there's still an open space. Like even these Gen Zs who are organizing, they're still having trouble getting ID cards. They're still having trouble, you know, like we don't know. We know the process has started. We don't know approximately how long it's gonna be until when a new IBC is reconstituted. And even out here in the diaspora, we actually in a darker place than even where Gen Zs are. Because we don't have continuous registration. And there's a lot of issues, you know, like IBC would typically surprise us. They would tell us like what happened in the last election. They told us like 3 weeks before that, oh, we are coming there within 3 weeks and we're going to be there only within a 1 week span. You've traveled from Seattle, Washington. Imagine someone is expected to travel from Seattle, Washington to either LA or to DC to come and register to vote. And then they have to do the same thing again to register, and then they have to travel again to come back and vote. So there are these issues that I think, you know, like we've had them talked about a lot, but a lot of people are not seeing movement. Like, for example, this IBC issue. Approximately when do we expect to have an IBC constituted so that people can start creating these political formations? Senator?
So I think by the end of September, in my own estimation, we should have the process coming to its tail end. because we already passed the law that came from NADCO on reconstitution of IEBC. And there was all the organizations that are required to present names for representatives had done so. There was a dispute on the representative by the political parties liaison committee, PPLC, and I am hoping that that issue will be resolved because we are ready to go. There are many things that are not happening because of that, but as you said, getting of IDs is a process in Kenya that is ongoing. Registration for voters, because the secretariat of the IEBC is still there, is ongoing. What we are not able to do are by-elections. Like now I have 10 by-elections, 7 in the county wards, and 3 members of parliament, including the most recent one in Ugunja, that was caused by the appointment of Honorable, what's his name, the MP for Ugunja.
The MP for Unguja.
The CS for Energy now, Opio and I.
Opio and I, yeah.
So there are those 3 by-elections. But I have interacted with this issue. I was told the same in Houston. I was told the same in Seattle, that in fact registration here does not happen continuously. And every time the issue of diaspora voting and involvement of diaspora in civic activity is raised, there's always the question of budget and resources, that then the IEBC claims that they are never given money in time and in sufficient quantity for them to be able to do the things that are required to be done. Suggestions have been made, because you live in the US and you've seen how registration of voters here happens. You are given your driving license, you are registered. You're registered as a voter. There is no reason why it doesn't happen in Kenya other than just bad manners. There is no other explanation, by the way. There are people who feel threatened by the fact that you can have automatic voter registration. People want to control the numbers that are on the register. And you can see some of the complaints that are coming from young people about the frustration of obtaining IDs. They are just games that are played in Kenya. We have seen the mail-in ballots in the US. There is no reason why Kenyans in diaspora can't mail in their ballots to DC or to wherever it is, even to Nairobi.
Yeah. People used to do that to get passports. People used to mail in passports.
That's what I'm telling you. There is no reasonable explanation as to why it doesn't happen, other than just our own bad manners. Kenya is a society that we need to have a conversation generally about our ethos, about the things that we believe in, about the things that are important to us. We have never had that conversation as a country, because there are things that happen there and it doesn't make any sense to anyone anywhere else. It's like we have agreed to first identify what makes sense, then we all agree now that's not what we're going to do, So we need to change our society. We need to change the leadership of this country. We need to have leaders who have different styles of doing things. We need to encourage the I don't know how I can say it, the emergence of new leaders. And this is why personally, if you ask me, I'm very happy, and I really pray that this movement does not dissipate. I want these young people to join politics. I want them to join leadership. I want them to paint a picture of a better country for all of us and do some of the things that they have told us they want to see being done. The first place to liberate, by the way, is Parliament, because all of these policies, all of these problems you are having, like, why would you have only one officer in the consulate in New York, or down there in LA, knowing that they serve millions of Kenyans? There are people, even in Texas, the numbers of Kenyans are so many. There is no reason why there's no access to consular services in those areas. But it requires resources. So who is the person who has the control of a pass? Just like here, the control of the pass is with Congress. Even in Kenya, the people who allocate resources for all these organizations and to release the money is Parliament. So I am hoping we will have 204, if not more, young people coming to Parliament, people who have abided by, like somebody talked about Article 73 of the Constitution. Article 73 of the Constitution sets guidelines for leadership. And there are 3 guidelines. You have to be credible, you have to be suitable, and you have to be competent. So when we discuss competence, even in electoral politics, unakuta mtu mwenye clearly hawezi kufanya hiyo kazi anaingizwa. So what anaingianga aje?
But Sasa, Senator, when you tell us and you're in the inside.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the difficulty that we have. So there's people out there, of course, who want to get into leadership.
Yes.
But there's a majority of people who just want to go about their business.
But this is what I'm telling. This is why I'm telling them.
Yeah.
If the youth movement has shown us anything, is that the power is with you.
Yeah.
It is not for you to look for politicians to help you to do this. The young kids have shown you that they actually have the power.
Yes. So this is 1 second, Mika.
Yeah.
This is a turning point. You know, like whatever we experienced on June 25th was a turning point.
Yes.
You know, like in Kenya's history, it has not been tested on the ballot yet. You know, because we've not had any elections.
That's why we are saying we need to channel this energy into political action. And it is not just about June 25th. The entire movement, the entire mobilization, the awareness of the issues, the sort of support that they gave to each other to ensure that they succeeded, it is the same when it comes to political mobilization.
Yes.
If it can be directed to that, I am telling you, Parliament will change.
Yes. But my issue here is when we look at ODM, for example,
yes,
as a party, you know, because we discussed this, we have people who've tried to run for office, you know, like via the ODM party from here in the diaspora, from back home. We actually have, you know, like some people here in the comments who've been doing it, and some of them, because they're within the party structure, they might not want to talk about it publicly. It is very, very difficult, and especially when there's lack of clarity on whether a direct certificate is going to be issued or whether it's going to be an open process. And I understand the difficulty that political parties have in running nominations, because IBC itself, a body that's tasked with doing elections, has their own difficulties. So we always see these problems during nominations, and some of these nominations, they're actually like mini general elections, and that's where people get disenfranchised when you know how much it costs to run a campaign in Kenya. You know how much it costs to, you know, just put a team together to be able to do that. So these younger people who are trying to get into office, I've seen some of the numbers quoted. Of course, I don't have facts, but I've been on the ground campaigning, and I see how much money is sometimes thrown around during the campaigns, and it's extremely difficult for a person who's qualified to try to become a governor, for example, or to try to become a member of parliament. You know, we also have women representatives. You know, like there's certain people who the party, for one reason or another, may have a certain preference for. And I'll give you a good example. I'll give you a very solid example because, you know, like that's my area. In Mombasa County, and I'm gonna say this because these are people I know. Shahbal was going to win that election, but then something happened within the Azimio structure, and he was asked to step aside. And a lot of people in Mombasa are still very bitter, you know, like about this. And we see these things happening across the board in different constituencies, in different counties. So you also have to understand from our side, when people want to come, the risk of going in and losing everything you have. Watu diaspora, I have a long list of watu wameenda wakaoshwa. We have a couple of other ones I don't want to mention here who are in Kenya. We wish them well.
I know them. I know them. See, they come and they find me there. So let me explain something to you.
Yes.
First of all, I disagree with you when you say that it is very difficult, that it is very expensive. If the young people have taught us anything, is that political organization can be done differently, not in just the traditional ways that we used to do it. Ali, before I plan a meeting of 100,000 people, that is weeks of planning. These guys are pulling crowds of upwards of 200,000 people on a single space. What are you talking about? Things have changed, and it is just about your dedication. Number two, I tell everyone who wants to get into politics, I'm not an expert, but I am in that business now. There is nothing in life you will start with guarantees from the beginning. If you want me to tell you, oh, now you're going to run in Kasarani constituency, I guarantee you in 2027 I will give you a direct ticket, I'm lying to you. Can I be honest with you and tell you that when you join a political party is a club. A club is run by rules. There are rules there. When you become a member of ODM, you have subscribed to the rules of the game. We have said in the party that there are 4 methods of nomination. It could be a direct ticket, it could be universal suffrage, it could be a decision of the delegates, it could be any other method. You understand? So when you sign up to be a member of ODM, you know what you're signing up to. That's why all these documents are public. Number two, a party is like a baby. It has to be nurtured every single day. You have to be present to feed it, to clean it, to support it to grow, and to teach it. You don't parachute in from Washington, D.C., 2 months to the election and you expect to be given a direct ticket. Who are you? We don't know you. The people down there on the grounds do not know you. The reason why I, as SG of ODM, can take one letter during the finance bill and write a letter to all members of parliament to be present in the house is because I know who those people are. Now, if you don't know us, we don't know you, what chances do you have of becoming a member of parliament on a certain political party? It is impossible. Thirdly, Ali, I have seen people beat ODM. People have beat ODM. An example of Mombasa in 2017, Muhammad Ali was denied the ticket. Wakapatia Saido. So he beat Saido.
He beat Saido.
So what I want to encourage people, let's stop making excuses. We as politicians are not perfect. Our political organizations are not perfect. ODM is not perfect. We give it a shot. Let me tell you, like last election, we made it clear that there would be direct tickets. And we explained how those direct tickets would be handed over. They would be backed by a science. We will do regular, over a long period of time, polling by an independent pollster to give us an idea of who is ahead and who is not. Where the polls are closed, Ali, we will allow those people to go to the ballot. Now, the problem with politics, and especially if you are a member of Diaspora, politics requires presence. And that is the physical distance between you and the ground. It gives you a disadvantage because by the time you're coming, there's always events that are happening. Even in your village today, Omwami, there are events that are happening and the political leadership is there. So people want to see you involved in activities. Right. And it's just difficult for you to do from Seattle or from Washington, D.C. You understand? So I appreciate that they start off with a disadvantage. But I'm telling you this. If you are present on the ground and people know you, do you know, like sometimes the way the party makes decisions, the party can be forced to give somebody a ticket. And I saw it in Kisii with Simba Arati. When the party leader goes there and all these guys are there and they have told us that hapa ni mzee ongeri ndio kusema, then when you go to the ground itself, you kuta that Simba has gone with the crowd. You have no choice because at the end of the day, the party wants to win elections. Let me address one final thing about the polling that we do. Ali, of all the direct tickets we gave in 2022, no one lost. None of those people lost. What does that tell you? That our science was on the money. Because we don't want to fabricate polls, give somebody you prefer, and then he loses the election. And something else I will admit. Because political parties are organizations and they are clubs, there are people who contribute their time, their resources to the political party. You can see that they believe in the ideology of the party and they have pushed so much to make the party popular. You can see he's helping us win civic seats and even constituency seats as a gubernatorial candidate. The decision that is made is very simple. We would rather lose with somebody who believes in us than somebody who doesn't believe in us but is popular. And then after the election, these are the same guys who ruka you immediately because they'll come there and tell you, oh, they have no idea what the party is about. So I am prepared as SG to lose an election fairly if I am fighting for somebody who has fought for the party and I've given him an opportunity. Yeah? Because that is a party loyalist. That is a party loyalist.
Okay, I think what would be important, and we have another call, and before we're gonna, Mika had something to say. Oh, we have, okay. Yeah, so Mika had something to add, but one other thing that I will say, it will be important because perception on the ground, you know, I mean, of course, I know there's the facts and the perception. It's very important because people make decisions on perceptions at the end of the day, especially when you're trying to win an election. It is important to make it clear that this 10, 20, or 30 constituencies, we are gonna be doing a direct nomination.
I as SG of ODM, I said from the beginning that every single constituency that has a woman as an incumbent, we will give those women direct tickets because we are trying to build the number of women in politics, in parliament. So you come from Rangwe, where Lillian Gogo is a member of parliament. Then you come and tell me you want nominations. For how? And you're a man. Hata kama ni nominations nitafanya between women. But there is no way I'm reducing the number of women in Bunge.
So let me ask you, so in these constituencies where there's an advance, you know, like a direct nomination given, so is it that, is it communicated that there will be no nominations done in this constituency?
Yes, I am telling you, I did it as SG. We said it. Every single constituency with a woman, we will not have men taking over those constituencies.
Okay.
Number two, because the polling is done over a long period of time, it is impossible for you to predict that in Langata we will give a direct ticket because the science is done over a long period of time, and sometimes you see There are certain constituencies that are so close. So close. How do I announce that there's not going to be primaries, and yet the science is showing me that it is close? In fact, the direct tickets were given, other than for the women. The direct tickets, I am a beneficiary of the direct ticket. So maybe you will say I'm biased, but I am not. And I have lost with a direct ticket in 2017, and I won with a direct ticket in 2022. So there is no distinct advantage sometimes from these things, especially where the science does not support that direct ticket. Okay. So it is observed over a long period of time. And by the way, if you look at the election rules of ODM, they give power to the local party. Like now, if the party in Migori, we have county coordinating committees and even constituency coordinating committees, they can sit down and agree that, yes, here we want to do this. I'll give you an example of a very painful decision that the party made because of trying to achieve some of the things that I'm telling you. It was a desire for us as ODM to also have a woman governor in the last election. So when John Mbadi wanted to be governor of Homa Bay, he was prevailed upon by the party that let's allow Gladys, who they were, by the way, they were polling at 50-50. They were almost the same. And Mbadi, who was the chairman of the party, of course, his position was that I wish you would let me just go to the primaries and lose, you know. But he was prevailed upon to do what? To leave that seat for Gladys, and Gladys won. In Busia, it was totally different. My own deputy, the Deputy Secretary General of ODM at that particular time was Florence Mutua. She was the chair of finance. She was the current women rep of Busia. She was allowed to go to the primaries with Governor Otuoma. And Governor Otuoma beat her at the party primaries. Yeah. So it is usually a balance. You cannot announce like right now, at Funyula, there will be no elections in primaries in 2027 because politics is very dynamic. But we do communicate. We do communicate.
Now, how soon? Now, you know, like, is it like a month before, like 2 months before?
Lastly, there is a question of coalitions, you know? So, you can get into a coalition like in 2022. The decisions on coalitions is left very late because of the dynamic nature of politics. And then you find you have been tied to the hip with Wiper, and then they tell you, oh, you are not going to run candidates in Embakasi South. Sayo, you have your candidate who has been running up and down for the past 4 years. And that decision is made, and it is a painful decision to make. So I would be lying to you, Ali, if I can sit here and tell you that I can tell you with specificity of all the seats that are going to be contested in the next election, that I know which ones are going to have direct tickets and the ones that are not going to have direct tickets, because the dynamics are just too many.
All right, you're tuned into the One Mic Show. Of course, the number to call is 2026834570 *5 to speak. We have Senator Sifuna in studio. I'm going to come back to reading your comments. You know, I know we've neglected them for a little. Mika has something he wants to say, and then we're going to come to the callers. Please be patient. Mika.
Yeah, thank you. He answered most of my questions in the conversation he just had right now. But I think what I want to ask is this. So, Senator Sifuna, you have said that one of your plans for the next election is you want to get those 204.
No, my target is 150. 204 near Gen Z.
Oh yeah, like for you is basically make sure that ODM is the strongest party in parliament. Yes. That's usually the target, right? Okay. Yeah. Now, the thing that I think there is a change. There's a wind of change that's blowing right now. Maybe it's too early for you to say what's happening or what's not happening, but there's definitely there's a wind of change. What can we expect for you from ODM as a party? And then in regards to how we've seen things coming in the past 3 years, we can compare the two mandamanos that we had when you guys were doing Reggae Mondays, and then with this one with the Jay-Z's, and we see the outcomes of the NADCO conversation, and then the outcome of how we've had some people of your party going into the national government. How are we seeing for something that will make the party not lose much ground to the people? Right now, as you've said yourself, a lot of people are saying that you're on shaky waters. A lot of people's perception people have looked for an enemy. And unfortunately, the enemy right now is ODM. That's the part with the big mark right now. How do you ensure that the party walks out of this cleanly, and how do you ensure that the party maintains the favor that it has enjoyed, for it being the oldest, I think I would say, people would say KANU, but I say ODM is the longest running single party in the country, and also the most populous party in the country.
Yeah, so there is no magic to these things. You have to put in the work. You can expect that as SG, I will put in the work. The work that I have always put in, I will continue to put in. As I told you, I have 10 by-elections. I'm going to try and run candidates in all those by-elections. Of course, Ugunja is held by ODM. The one from Kilifi is run also by ODM, and Banisa was not ours. But we will try and run candidates in all of those. There is no substitute to hard work. And I understand, you yourself have said it, that people have found a scapegoat in ODM, but it is something that we have gone through in the entire existence of a party. We have always been blamed. And so our responsibility as leaders is to explain ourselves, is to explain ourselves that at the end of the day, the goodness or badness of somebody will be exposed over time. It's not something I can sit here and tell you that I'm a good person. You will observe it all through whenever it is things are happening. At the end of the day, Ali, when the young people needed people to stand with them in Bunge, 73, actually there were how many? 73 out of the 86 members of ODM in the National Assembly voted with the people. At the end of the day, at the end of the day, you have an organization where you can petition one official. The way they petitioned me on social media to make sure that all members were present, they actually told me that absence from the floor this time around would be compared to betrayal. Yeah. And 86 out of 86 members of parliament showed up.
Present,
So the people forget so fast. People forget so fast. Even events as recent as June 25th, which my brother is talking about here now. And now Sifuna has become the bad person. Now I've become a bad person because of non-existent bills that I supported Ndengu farmers being imprisoned. Yet it is not true. There is a majority of the young people, by the way, on social media, and those who supported this movement, they know who we are. They know who I am, So it's just a few guys there who just like to make noise every day. And I think, power is a very powerful drug, Ali. I've told these kids, power is more powerful than any drug you're doing. It's more powerful than any flavor of shisha in Nairobi. Because the minute you have discovered that you have a power to fire a cabinet, the minute you have discovered that you can say tomorrow kuna maandamano and the entire CBD is closed, it is very powerful. You feel very powerful. But what do you do with that power? Are you still using that power to advance good things for your country? Or now you're just there, kazi yako kama sai unanisalimia kwa nini? Why? Wow, boda unanitubia messages za ujinga kwa simu yangu ama kwa WhatsApp ama kwa Twitter. Inakufurahisha nini? There are people who are just angry and annoyed all the time. They insult people instead of actually using their newfound power. I was very proud when young people were using phone calls or phone numbers of members of parliament to tell them what to do about a specific bill. But what are you doing with those numbers now? Right now, we have been exposed to scammers. Every day, there's at least 10 people trying to scam me with fake bills of hospitals, sijui mtoto wangu amefukuzwa shule nini. No wonder I no longer send people money. You have to come to me. You have to come to me and show me documentation that mtoto wako amefukuzwa shule. Because the trust has also been eroded. We are trying to be conned every single day.
Yeah.
So, and then there is a flip side of power, Ali. The flip side of power is responsibility. At the end of the day, if I am in power, like now I'm the senator of Nairobi, I have a responsibility to explain things to you, the decisions that I make in parliament. When you have power but you don't want that responsibility, because I was telling some of these young people that even if it is not me as Sifuna, assuming now you have chosen somebody else to be the senator of Nairobi, the responsibility falls on him to explain things. My mother, who is in the village, she's also a Kenyan. She wants to know what sort of country you want to run. What happens after this? What are your plans? Are you going to sort out the education system? How is it going to run under your administration? So we must accept that with great power comes great responsibility. And when we criticize you, it is because we are also countrymen. We're also invested in the future of this country. It cannot be that me, I have to explain, and you don't have to explain. If you are in power, you're in power. Now, the power now is no longer with us. The power is with the young people. Let them paint this picture of the country they want to live in, because at the end of the day, they have a responsibility to all the 55 million of us to explain to us the sort of country they want to build.
Okay, sawa. Number of comments coming here, calls coming in. Let me quickly read a few comments here from Facebook. And these were written up some time back. Let me see. Washeke says the movement did not turn on itself. The government used scare tactics, bribed, etc. Wanjeri says, but it was clear there were people who hijacked the movement and they were most likely getting paid to create chaos. Then Delphine says, I love this dialogue. Evans Marube says, as ODM supporters, we feel ODM turned opportunistic and hijacked Gen Z's pressure that had cornered Ruto. And then we have Greg Hazlitt. This is circular political speak. Actions speak louder than words. When Jerry says Kenyans have learned to fight with fire, we are bringing the same energy the politicians bring until one side drowns out the other, and it's a dangerous place to be. Ruth says, are there no rules, laws deterring members from joining the government without first resigning? And then Apa Habokumu says, Bona Senator, should we believe the individuals who joined Ruto did not have Raila's blessing? That this was not orchestrated by the two of them to quell the pressure? Sure thing, the pressure was easing up, abductions, killings, extrajudicial was doing it for Ruto, but this Jamas joining the government helped him big time. And this is something I'm going to agree with Hab. You know, when those members joined the government, they gave Ruto back the power which had been taken away from him. And then Evans Marube says ODM, unlike Wiper, Jubilee and NAC, decided to muddy into Ruto's mess. And then who else do I have here? Let me see. Esther Mulusa says signing in from Shimalavandu, Kakamega County. So we have listeners all the way from Kakamega County. And then let me see. Washeke is on hold. We're coming to you, Washeke.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your patience. Then Brian Kilong says, unfortunately, after all the mess, stolen elections, death and destruction, then Raila joins hands with Ruto. Just when Gen Z were on the verge of bringing down the despotic regime, we lost faith in ODM. I speak confidently as an ODM member since 2007. Sifuna can only reclaim some relevance if he resigns and joins Kenyans. Anything short of that, we know which side he belongs to. Nancy Mirotsi says, women rep nominated people need to go. Nancy saying, Ali, the same was done to my sister-in-law Ashu in Coast.
I know Ashu.
All right, so maybe you'll tell us later what happened to her.
Yeah.
So someone here is complaining something happened to her.
I've already explained.
And then Esther Mulusa says political parties are just run by personalities. We have the strongman syndrome. ODM is notorious of direct tickets, and I think that's something that you've already explained how ODM does it. Then Akinyo Doyo from Texas. Not what Texas, we're called deep in the building, Leo. How would you engage those who feel disillusioned by the current system of governance na hawataki kuanguka nayo and are exploring alternative ways of community building? What resources or support can you offer to empower and include them, especially considering the true empowerment often stems from believing in alternative approaches? Now, Esther Mulusa again from Shimalavandu, Kakamega says, bottom line is that once Raila decrees a candidate will be elected, it happens because of the euphoria and go status given to Baba. We have a governor asleep on the job because Baba said so. Then I have here Gidraf Nganga all the way from Reading, Pennsylvania, saying Morara Kebaso is traversing the country, exposing the corruption, the inefficiency, and the incompetence in the use of billions of shillings of Kenyan taxpayers. This is the root cause of all this mayhem. Ruto government increasing taxes even as those collected are being mismanaged with abandon. It surely doesn't make sense. What is Senator Sifuna doing about all this? Judy Nyar Oyuyo says, what lasting impact has the Gen Z Maandamano had? Would consider working to mentor Kasamuel Makore, Wanjiru Wanjira, and Anita Baraza. Okay, so Apo mentorship services being offered. Esther Mulusa, what about the sidelining of Luhya candidates in ODM strongholds like Nairobi and Mombasa? Why are Luyas relegated to voters while Luos get the seats, yet Luyas give Baba more than 40% of his votes? Look at the ratios of Luo MCAs in Nairobi compared to Luyas. Hiyo ni hesabu gani? Babu Owino rides on majority Luya votes. He was handpicked by Baba at the expense of a Luya candidate. I have many more examples. So, very specific example there. Na Mary Washira anasema following from Seattle. Esther Mulusa anasema you skipped my long comment.
Which I think you just read.
Maybe it's the one that I read. If there's another one, Esther Mulusa, please tag me. I will. And if I've skipped your comment, feel free to tag me. I'm going to read that comment. Then Damaris Kifude says, I don't think ODM will bring the change we want. It's the same all media speeches to look like things are moving. Wanjeri from Boston says, can we please get a response to questions on Africans from the diaspora investing in Kenya? This is one thing some countries have done well. I think we're gonna go.
Let's go to the callers.
Let's go to the callers because they've been waiting for a while,
Yes.
and then like a senator has been writing down these questions.
Yes.
The ones that have been answered, but he will address the ones.
Yeah, he hasn't addressed the one for
The one for Afro-Jamaican.
Jamaican.
Yeah, so that will be addressed. So,
All right.
so let's take the callers.
Let's take the caller. And before I do that, let me just read a funny comment over here coming from Steven Okoth. Karibu Bwana SG, I appreciate the lashings you give the government folks on the morning shows. I understand they have now been instructed not to debate you. 0073, thank you for calling the One Mic Show. Name and where you're calling from.
This is Washeke calling from San Antonio, Texas.
Hey, Texas in the house. Karibu sana, Washeke.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Senator Sifuna, for gracing us this evening. So I have 3 questions, if you'll permit me. So the first question is on the Senate Bill Sports Amendment Bill of 2024 that you sponsored. The Olympics just ended, and we've seen Kenya did not medal in races that we used to dominate. So with your bill, what are you hoping to accomplish? How are you going to help develop sports in the counties, as well as address the challenges that our athletes face? My second question is related to energy costs. Energy costs in Kenya are very high and also very unreliable. You know, we have blackouts that happen and they affect everyday Kenyans as well as businesses, and that's why a lot of manufacturing is moving to the neighboring countries because of that. So as a member of the Senate Energy Committee, what policies and proposals are you working on to ensure Kenyans have reliable and low-cost energy? My third question is something you've touched on tonight. You've mentioned several times the dengue bill. So recently we have seen attack on Kenya's land and food sovereignty with the introductions of several bills. Right now, farmers not being allowed to exchange indigenous seeds. And this latest one on the man dengue bill. Can you elucidate further on this bill? When I read it, I really did not see what issue or problem you were trying to resolve. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Next caller, and 1 minute, because of time. 1 minute each caller, and then Senator will address all those questions.
6222, name and where you're calling from. Karibu sana.
Yeah, my name is Lorenzo. I'm calling from California, Los Angeles. So to the Senator, thank you so much for speaking to people here. Mine is not about ODM or whatever is happening in Kenya, but as a Senator, I was recently in Nairobi with a group of my friends from Silicon Valley. I work in Silicon Valley, San Francisco as well. And we noticed the dire situation of Nairobi CBD, especially pathways, sidewalks for pedestrians, and the chaos that was just there. You can be hit by a car and all this kind of thing. So what are you doing as a senator to improve the face of Nairobi? Maybe even, I know you don't agree with Sakaja, and we know he's useless, but he's there now. Is there a way to find a way to improve the city image that can bring more investment, like people want to open businesses in service industry in downtown that can get more jobs for the youth?
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lorenzo.
All right.
Yeah, let's go to the next caller.
7796. Thank you for calling. Name and where you're calling from.
Thank you so much. This is Kevo again. And,
hey, Kevo.
I'm calling from Virginia, and mine is regarding what the senator just said. I mean, moving forward from, as you try to see now, what's next? I mean, how do we make our democracy more stronger? And I want to mention specifically on the issue of direct tickets. Now, mine is just that, do you think direct tickets sort of undermine democracy? Because I feel like once people have been the big fish in the party and they know they love direct tickets. So, for example, the women leadership, who know that they will have direct tickets when it comes to the primaries. Because what we've seen recently, there is dominance in some certain areas there's regional dominance in political parties as well, and that's why you said when NIPA, for example, comes in, they will tell you, okay, don't have a candidate in this area, because they know it plays a role in who is voted in. So in the issue of direct tickets, like for example, Rift Valley, we know if William Ruto fronts you or the UDA party fronts you, then even if there is a more competent person on the side who's more likely to perform better, the masses will most likely go for the party. So I feel like party politics have overshadowed the real democracy in some parts of the region. And as we move forward, we are trying to sanitize that. Things that we were actually thinking, things like police reforms to make sure the police, take vows to stand with the constitution and not certain individuals in government, so that we avoid the issues such as abductions and such. So in the same spirit, can we move that to the party so that every year there is a primary, and whoever comes first then becomes the flag bearer of the party moving on.
Okay. Thank you, Kevo. And finally, 2489. Name and where you're calling from. Thank you for calling the OneMic show. Hello.
Good evening. Yes, my name is Judy Oyoyo. Hello, everybody. Senator Sifuna, thank you so much for doing this. I missed you on Saturday because I had to go for some prayers somewhere, but thank you so much for what you're doing. This is very important.
Thank you.
My question is, being that the Gen Zs are so vocal and they're so young and there are so many ideas, why can't ODM work with them? And that's what I was talking about, mentorship. Because surely there'll come a time when ODM, the kind of leadership, will not be able to be active in politics because of age and whatever. So why can't you, together with the leadership of ODM, mentor these Gen Zs like Samuel, Makoure, Anita Barasa, and Wanjira, because they have so many great ideas, and so that way you can actually work with them, give them jobs, so that they see the importance of why they have to believe in what they're doing, because they really have made a difference. Thank you.
Okay, I think I'll just start with Judy there. First of all, the Constitution gives everybody a right of association, that it is voluntary. You cannot force someone to join ODM. You cannot force someone to be mentored by Sifuna. In fact, if you look at some of the leading lights of the Gen Z movement, they have been very hostile to politicians,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And they create this impression that we are somehow desperate for them or desperate for their support. We are not. This support should be mutual. It should be mutually you should want to be around me. I should want to be around you. Nobody is going to force these issues. And for me, really, I have never used some of the language I see some members of the movement using against political parties, using against us, using against me. For me, I want to build a national political party. Every single person is welcome to ODM. A person joining your movement can only make the movement stronger. And if you want to build anything of a sort of political movement that we need in the country, you cannot be exclusionist. You cannot say tall people cannot join ODM or short people, or fat people, or thin people. I shouldn't use some of these words in the US.
Yeah.
Yes.
By the way,
Let me take them back. You can't say that people of a certain disposition should not join my political movement, because every single person has a vote. I am the most available political leader in Kenya today. I believe any person who seeks to see me can see me. If you want to walk the journey with me, you can walk the journey with me. I put my blood and sweat in this political party to build it every time, to be able to identify talent. Like for me, I have said it is important for the good people to find each other. I have a responsibility to find these young people wherever they are. I go to places, the most remote places. We spend time with Mzee a week. We are just doing Lamu. You go to Tana River. You go to all these places to build ODM, to build the party. You have to put in the work. So I cannot close the door on anyone. I cannot. My door is open, but it is voluntary. It is you who determines whether you want to associate with me. I am not forcing anyone to associate with me or with ODM. When I said that for me my target is 150, because I set a target of 100 in the last election in the National Assembly, I didn't get there. I wanted 24 senators. If you come to my office in Nairobi, I already have a list of the counties where I believe ODM can get a senator. There are counties that we got a governor. We don't have a senator. It doesn't make sense for me. Kakamega, Kajiado, you go all the way to Tana River. I want to come back to the Senate as a Senate majority leader. I am planning, I'm thinking. I want to see these young people, these voices that can actually be mentored, because me personally, I don't feel threatened by anyone. I want us to have a better country. It doesn't have to be led by Sifuna. No. For as long as you have a good person in power, it works for all of us. Like you said, that there's people who just want to go about their lives. But you can't have a government that interferes with even your ability to be able to make money to feed your families. It affects all of us. So for me, I have an open invitation. Any single Kenyan who wants to associate with Sifuna, wants to associate with ODM, who wants to associate with a party, is free to join. By the way, there are almost 100 political parties in Kenya.
Ziko nyingi, yeah.
Ziko nyingi. Lakini
sana.
Sisi upigwa tu.
Yeah.
Sisi tu ndio upigwa mijeledi kwa kila bahali. Number 2, nimezungumzia issue ya direct tickets. Si ndio? Hiyo nilikuwa nimeshajibu.
Yeah,
na mtu ameuliza hii kitu. It's not just ati unaamka tu unapea mtu ticket, because I want to win. The party needs to win that seat. It has to be backed by science.
There's talk on the streets that they are bought.
That's what I'm telling you. Bought by whom? But me, I didn't buy mine.
There's
number
talk.
2, I'm telling you, Ali, ukweli haitabadilika kulingana na vile wewe unaamini. Whether you choose to believe me or not, this is still a bottle of water. Wewe kama unaona juice, sasa hiyo ni perception yako.
Yeah.
But I am speaking as a person who has been in this business, who has experience. I do not want to lose an election. You can't come and buy a ticket knowing very well that all you have is the money and you don't have the people on the ground. I want to win these elections. So we put in some science into this, and this science is verifiable. And it is in the evidence is in the fact that I've told you no one got a direct ticket and lost. Across the country, including places where we are not it's not at just Luo Nyanza.
Is this including MCA seats?
No, I don't think any MCA got a direct ticket. MCAs wengi.
So it was parliament.
The competition, the competition in
MCA, some constituencies was.
You have like 20 candidates. But what walipelekwa kwa debe? So, and I want to acknowledge here that ODM, its systems, the party, is not a perfect organization. We are operating in a very challenging environment where we also lack resources to be able to do some of these things. Last election, we tried to do primaries using technology. We are the only political party who actually attempts these things, where we had replaced totally the paper ballots and people were voting on a gadget that we purchased in those areas that had primaries, and it had its own challenges.
Is it possible to allow IBC to do these primaries? Because these primaries are like,
first of all, IBC themselves refuse, because they say the elections, by the time you're running primaries, they're also preparing for the general elections.
Okay.
You know? Number 2, the money that they will demand from you, my friend, we don't have that sort of money. To run a proper primary. I have done the math. We need anywhere close. If I am going to run, party primaries in all of the 290 constituencies, I need maybe 2 billion Kenyan shillings. I don't have that money.
Yes. Wow.
I don't have that money. Just think about it. It's about logistics. For you to be able to have ballot papers, if a constituency has 10 aspirants, ballot paper inatoshana hivi. Aya, logistics za kuprint hizo ballot paper, kutransport hizo ballot paper, kuna ballot boxes, kuna security, kuna elections officials wale nahitaji kuhire security. Yani bana boss, it is a logistical nightmare for political parties. And as we speak today, the government has refused to give money to political parties. The debt that is owed by government to ODM right now, not political parties, ODM specifically is now at 10 billion Kenya shillings out of the political parties fund, because they never remit, you know. So when we talk about these challenges, it's not to make excuses, but it is to give you an understanding of the sort of environment that we're working with and how hard we are trying for some of these things to be done. Then we come to Washeke, right?
Yeah.
Washeke asked me about my amendment bill to the Sports Act, and it is very simple. As a senator of Nairobi, every single day I sit in my office, people are coming to me to tell me the Nairobi Boxing Association has a tournament in Kilifi. We don't have transport. We need to hire a bus. We want to go. And it is a registered county association. You find even our schools, our primary schools, when they are going for national games.
Nationals, yeah.
I want a uniform. I bought the first uniform for all the Nairobi primary schools last year. The last time they had been bought was when Kidero was governor. Unanielewa?
Okay.
You come to the secondary schools, when Highway went to Kakamega.
Yeah.
They have challenges. The other schools, Kinyanjui Road, wanaitisha yani hata vitu basics kama vile ya kumaintain walimu wakule wakiwa huko. Unanielewa? So me, what I decided, we sat down with some of these associations and we agreed that, you know, initially when the Sports Act was put in place, there was something called a sports fund that was set aside for construction of
stadium.
No, it was just academies, sports academies in all the 290 constituencies, and it would really have helped in terms of growing talent across the country. Now, the initial thinking was that the money that would go to the sports fund would come from the tax on sports betting, because initially there was those who were sitting in Bunge that time didn't anticipate just how popular sports betting was going to become. Now, when they said, okay, all the money from sports betting go to this fund and it will help to build sports academies in the constituencies, until the money started rolling in.
Yeah.
Then they discovered, hii pesa ni mingi, hii ni mingi. So they changed the law to say now, instead of just building sports facilities, we are going to use this money to universal healthcare. And that is where we lost the plot, because financing is the primary problem of sports in Kenya. If you are not able to have facilities that nurture that talent and to have systems that ensure that that talent comes through, then you are doing nothing. So what the amendment I have brought is to require that all county governments set aside at least 1% of the money that they receive each year from on-source revenue and the money that comes through the equitable share for sports associations, just to help these associations to be able to hire vehicles when they go for tournaments, to be able to pay referees and officials and all the other things. Just basic, because 1% of the 20 billion that
so ring-fence that money.
Yes, ring-fence that money specifically for registered sports associations. And then you have to have, of course, they are properly registered, they are affiliated to the governing body, and proper accounts are kept and so on and so forth. So I am hoping that it will help relieve the burden from all these associations walking around with a begging bowl just because there is a tournament they want to. Then there is an amendment that I brought to the energy bill, and this as a result, because I'm a member of the energy committee, like Washeke said, we had a conversation with the stakeholders on the price of electricity. Kenya's electricity is so uncompetitive in the region that in fact many of these heavy industries and manufacturers would rather set up in Egypt or set up in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania or in Ethiopia itself, because of the cost of
energy
electricity.
Costs, yeah.
Yes. So we had a whole inquiry as to why electricity in Kenya was expensive. And we traced back the problem to the introduction of independent power producers at the advent of, there was a time when we had a drought, I think it was 2008, 7, 9 Apple. And people in the ministry liberalized the sector and said, instead of just Kenya Power generating electricity, let us have people, investors
private
coming.
Companies,
yes, private companies. Now, many of those private companies were being given power purchase agreements spanning 20, 30 years, and many of them are denominated on the dollar because of the financing that is brought in to put up this. It is heavy investment. If you look at Lake Turkana Wind Power, for instance, is the largest wind farm in Africa. It is a lot of money. The geothermal development in Rift Valley, it takes a lot of resources and investment. So many of those deals, but the worst were the thermal generators, because they were the easiest and quickest to set up to be able to bridge the energy deficit at that particular moment in time. But they use heavy fuel oil, or basically diesel generators. They are Grecos, if you remember, they came in and brought in those generators to try and show up our grid. But it is very expensive, because if you factor in forex fluctuation and then include the up and down trend of the price of crude and oil generally, that is where Kenyans are suffering. So at the end of that discussion, we have made certain recommendations, and including this amendment to the energy bill. One of the things we noticed is that if you read the power purchase agreement with like Turkana Wind Power, for instance, it requires that, KPLC has a room like this, where they have all these generators, all these sources of energy. They have the hydros, they have the power, the wind farms, they have the geothermals. They have a global view of all the sources of electricity and also the demand at every single minute. So the way they operate is that there's a guy called a dispatcher there who calls you and tells you, now you come online.
Okay.
Now, there is a provision in the contract for wind power from Turkana that if they reach a certain threshold of dispatch or uptake or sell to KPLC, Kenyans will receive a 50% discount on the power that is coming from there. But KPLC has never done that. They prefer to buy expensive heavy fuel oil because, of course, we know why.
Because of corruption.
Correct.
Okay.
So one of the amendments, one of the proposals in the bill is that you tie the hands of a dispatcher to uptake and prioritize alternative fuel, alternative sources of electricity, and the cheapest available.
The cheapest
power.
available.
Correct.
Okay.
There are things like that. Then there's a question of disclosure of ownership of these companies, because the suspicion is that many of the owners and the shareholders of these IPPs are just mandarins in the former
in the government,
former mandarins in the energy sector and in the Ministry of Energy. So that if you do not want to disclose the beneficial ownership of your company, then you are not allowed to do business with any public entity in Kenya. Why are you hiding? So there are amendments such as those, and then to require a register of all these power producers and what we have signed up to. Because do you know, there are people holding power purchase agreements that they are being paid, and they don't even, nobody knows where they are, nobody knows what they do, what their contribution to the national grid is.
Yeah.
So there is a requirement for, just like in the national debt conversation, we need to be able to know where we are with all these power purchase agreements and who's playing in the industry. Because there's something called a capacity charge. It is one of the highest. If you look at your electricity bill, unajua kitambo walikuwa wanapeana breakdown. After tuanze kuamulika waliiweka kila kitu pamoja. So
in one lump sum.
Usijue capacity charge didi.
Yeah.
Sasa your capacity charge, for as long as it pays for the investment. So whether that farm is being dispatched or not, there is a standard charge we pay for that.
So
capacity.
everyone who's using. So now people who use Isis Naitwa tokens.
Yes.
So does that show the detail of what's going to?
Initially, before we began this inquiry, when I was elected to the Senate, Kenyans, if you buy tokens, ulikuwa unaona kwa 1,000 tuseme watakwambia 600 imeenda kwa units. Wanakuambia units ngapi? Alafu kulikuwa na all these charges zote zilikuwa zinakuwa listed. Siku hizi ukinunua hauoni hizo vitu.
Zimepotea.
Because tulikuwa tunataka tumulike kila kitu, kama hiyo fuel cost. Fuel cost was the highest. And ulikuwa unakuta ukiangalia bili yako ya stima 50%, 51, actually ilikuwa 51% taxes. Ilikuwa taxes, 49% inaenda kwa token.
Okay.
So those are the amendments that we have spoken to. The last one was on food sovereignty. I think if you follow the discussion in Senate, many of us have taken objection to introduction of GMO. We have raised issues about indigenous seeds, the ability of our own farmers to be able to, grow crops independent of all these conglomerates. But it is a fight that is still ongoing, because the science is controversial, and for us, until there is clarity, at least for me, I can speak for myself and I can speak for my political party. As it is right now, we still object to the introduction of this, because we believe that it will kill those indigenous farmers, and especially the smallholders.
Okay, lakini kulikuwa na state visit na kuna the certain things that apparently have to be paid back. So that's a conversation for another day.
Yes.
Yeah. Wacha to prioritize your maswali. So I think you've been able to touch on most
Afro-Jamaican,
of the
Afro-Jamaican.
Yeah, the Afro-Jamaican question. The Kenyans, the descendants of slaves, or rather any foreigner who
Sasa
wants to
huyu
come to invest in
Afro-Jamaican
Kenya.
bana, mimi niko na shida mingi za Wakenya. Wakenya wenyewe kwanza kama nyinyi kuinvest Kenya yenyewe ni shida. Unaona? The reason why hizi sheria ziko pale ni kuprotect Wakenya. Kenyan jobs and Kenyan businesses. So mtu akikuja kama anataka kuinvest kwa nchi, hii I think anaongelelea 1 million ya work permits.
Na Afro-Jamaican najui Kiswahili kwa hivyo
work permits. So
permits,
all these rules are put in place. There is usually the justification is that it is put in place in order to protect indigenous businesses and Kenyans themselves. So one of the biggest complaints that Kenyans have, first of all, our economy does not produce enough jobs for people. That is why many people have to seek opportunities outside. And if you had recently, there was kulikuwa na kelele ingine tena ya ati airport imeuzwa. Unajua Kenya iko na maneno. Kenya iko na maneno. Sasa one of the things yenye ilikuwa reported ni kwamba wale watu wako airport ati wote watafutwa, ati waindi wataletwa kufanya kazi za Wakenya. If you follow the conversation around the operation of the SGR, there is if you look at our immigration laws, you are allowed only to get a work permit if those skills that you are bringing are not available in Kenya, or there is no Kenyan who's qualified for those skills. But unakuta huko kwa SGR hata mtu anakata risiti initially hadi ilikuwa mchinese mtu kazi
the grandson of Kwai Chang-Kane.
Correct. Sasa shida ndio hiyo iko hapo. We have to balance as an elected leader. I understand the need for people to come to work across the world. Our own people are doing the same even in other places, even including the US. But because of the nature of our laws, they are a bit protectionist. But it is a conversation that can be done.
But what about people who want to start business? Not people who are looking for work. People who want to start business.
That's what I'm telling you. That conversation can be had. I have no issue. I am willing to be educated and to be convinced about it. I'm just telling you what the thinking is behind some of these.
Yeah, we're gonna ask Afro-Jamaican to write something, and we're gonna present it to you.
Yes, you will give him my email. He can write me directly.
Yes, so we'll give Afro-Jamaican your email, and he'll write to you directly, and then we'll pick up from there. Mika.
Yeah, I wanted to correct the senator and say that what Afro-Jamaica actually is, Afro-Jamaica is looking to come into Kenya as an investor.
As an investor.
And then, as an investor. And then I think a few months ago, we had 2 interviews here with people who actually want to invest in Kenya. Now, one of the things that they had and they were saying was a problem for them is that when it comes to small level investments in Kenya, the government of Kenya is not really recipient to that. It's like they want companies that come with billions and billions of dollars. So that is, I guess, what Afro-Jamaica is asking is, how do you allow for simple, like mid-level, middle earners to come in? And I might not be able to open a Kakuzi factory or to open a KCC, but I can open a restaurant that hires around 20 to 50 people. I can open a club, I can open a hotel, I can open like a small-scale business that gives employment to a certain number of people. I can open an IT consulting company that opens that people, because Senator, hata sisi wa Kenya wenye tulikuja huku and in the process of surviving turned into Americans, and by that time she does a embassy, passport ili expire nini, ID, hauna the new generational ID, hauna PIN, hauna passport ya Kenya. So you go back to Kenya as an American. When you try to do something, when you try to invest something, you find it quite difficult for you kwa sababu so unatitiwa kama mtu mgeni. So
I apologize for the confusion, because I had Afro-Jamaica saying that for black people who are removed from Africa and settled in Jamaica, who are looking back to come back to the continent,
so
that is not setting up a business. That is somebody who is saying they are looking to go back to the motherland. They are looking for nationality. They are looking for what is it called? Citizenship.
I think where Afro-Jamaican is coming from.
If you come to invest in Kenya, they don't ask you for 1 million shillings.
I think where Afro-Jamaican is coming from is that this group, there is an awakening in this group with people who've worked and have money here, but they want to come and
They want to move
invest
back.
in Africa.
Yeah.
So there's an awakening among the black community here.
There is a difference between, maybe I had him wrong. And this is why I'm saying, let us have the conversation with him. I will leave my email here with you. If he's ever in Nairobi, because I don't know why anyone would ask you for money to invest in their country.
Oh, trust me.
If the ones that I know who are required to pay,
facilitation fees.
No, facilitation fees is a different conversation.
Brown envelope.
The story that I am talking about is the requirement, for instance, by in the process of acquisition of citizenship. That is what Afro-America was talking. Afro-Jamaica was talking about. Acquisition of citizenship is very prohibitive. You remember during the finance bill, they had even proposed to increase it. You remember?
Yeah.
And that is where the 1 million figure I remember from, unless I'm wrong. But I am willing to have that conversation with him.
Okay, all right. Afro-Jamaican, we'll get back to you. And you know, and I think, you know, like any other questions or any other comments, we'll get them to Senator. But now, Senator, before you leave us,
yes,
there is one big question, and I think maybe you may have mentioned it. Yeah. Ni AC imekataa kazi ama ni wa Kenya ama ni wa Kenya ndo amekukata jasho hapo, wa Kenya wa diaspora.
Hapana, tumezoea.
Anyway, so the big question is, a lot of people want to know, and I have my own personal opinion that I'm not going to taint your memory, your brain with first, is people want to know what next for Senator Sifuna. 2027 is not far down the line. I mean, you may have implied in one of the comments that you made that you're looking to become a majority leader in the Senate, but where are you looking to go in 2027, especially in the light of this new political dispensation we're in, where we've discovered that regular people like the Gen Zs can decide to take back that sovereign power from the parliament that they had donated it to at any time. So what are you looking towards 2027? What are we expecting from Senator Sifuna?
Yeah, first of all, I must say that it has been the honor of my life to serve as an elected representative of the people of Nairobi, as a senator of Nairobi. Every opportunity you get, it opens your eyes to many things about your country, to perspectives of your countrymen and your colleagues even in parliament. I am happy to serve as a senator of Nairobi. Hizi stories zingine mi nasomanga tu online. Tu online. Unasikia mtu anakupea kiti yenye hujamuomba alafu anakunyang'anya. Ati tulikuwa tunadhania utakuwa gavana mzuri. Nimekuomba kiti ya gavana. I have not asked anyone. I am happy in my position as a senator of Nairobi. Let me do a good job. Let people remember that there was a senator who would represent us well, who would do proper oversight, who would be able to legislate, bring up ideas that are actually progressive ideas that help to change or move the needle anywhere. Lee, there is nobody who has a birthright of leadership. You don't. This is a favor that Kenyans have done to give you opportunity to serve. It is not something unaweza sema ati unakatalia. Unakatalia kwani ni yako. Venye wewe mwenyewe umesema rightly. And they have demonstrated it at any particular, as you've said, during this past few months. They can take back that sovereignty. I am more than grateful to serve as a senator of Nairobi. In 2027, I will be running to retain my seat as senator of Nairobi. Okay. And I want to come back as a Senate majority leader because I have seen that I am outnumbered in the Senate right now. The things that I would have wanted to do, I cannot do all of them because I am outnumbered. That is why on my board in the office, I have all these other Senate seats that I am thinking. I am hoping that I can help the party to win those seats, bring on board some progressive people. Yeah, I want to win Kajiado. I want to win Kakamega. I want to win Tana River. So that if I have 24 people, if Ruto or whoever it is that will be there thinks of bringing housing levy, and he knows Sifuna is there as a majority leader in the Senate, he knows it's not going to pass. You know, look at the way the Senate behaved during the voting of Kawira Mwangaza. We have actually reduced the threshold for impeachment of a governor. Ati mtu anaimpeachiwa kwa sababu alisema ati shilingi 10,000 ilichangwa kwa matanga na kumbe ilikuwa 5,000. That is what we are impeaching governors for now as a Senate. And when I sit there and I look at some of my colleagues, you know, we need to do something. We need to have progressive leaders, people who actually will live true to the oath of office, because all of us swore to uphold the Constitution. How can you be violating a document you swore to uphold? So I am more than happy to be a senator. I am more than happy to represent the people of Nairobi. The day that they feel that I am no longer representing them, this is their seat. This is their seat. They will take it away and give it somebody else. If somebody else can do a better job than Sifuna, why would you insist on being there?
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I asked this question is, I mean, especially before the members were in the leadership of ODM joined the broad-based coalition, you know, and with maybe the kind of leadership that you showed during the debates with the finance bill, and you were out there, you know, like defending the people in what people were saying against the finance bill. And then of course also what Mika mentioned, you know, like people saw you come out, you know, like when those snipers were out there, when those police, or you know, some people even in plain clothes who were shooting at the protesters, you know, like you were seen coming out and trying to be in defense of the protesters, and at that particular time and even up to now, people still feel like there's a very big power vacuum in Kenya, not in as far as we don't have leaders, but in as far as we don't have the leaders that we want.
Yeah.
The kind of things that Gen Zs were describing, like follow the Constitution, this is what we're looking for. We don't have those kinds of leaders. So your name was popping up in certain spaces, you know, like on being one of the persons who maybe can fill that gap. But then of course things turned the other way when now you had to defend your party when your party was under attack because of what had happened. This is my personal feeling, and this is because also having seen what happened in the 90s and how Baba, because a lot of people also don't understand Baba's history. He wasn't handpicked by his father. In fact, his father had handpicked other people, you know, like outside. His lieutenants were Orengo, Muite, the other people. So Baba had to create his own space by resigning as a member of parliament, Langata. I think it's the first time, you know, like at least in my lifetime, it's the first time I saw a member of parliament resigning from his party that sponsored him to parliament and being elected in a different party. Now, I am not necessarily telling you to do that, Sifuna. I am just voicing what people are saying. And this is,
I support your point.
And this is in
so
as far
Ali,
as
Ali, in the interest of time, I'll give you a very.
This is in as far as filling out a gap.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I do not control people's perceptions of me, or even the prayers and the dreams you have for me, or the wishes and desires that you have for me. I will remain who I am. I don't do any of the things I do so that I appear like a presidential candidate. I did not go out there to tell those people. It just comes to you, because as a human being, it is something that if you are in that circumstance, I believe even you would have done the same thing. That does not make anyone special, you know? What we are saying is this. In the fullness of time, everybody has their journey. You're not going to mirror your journey on Raila's journey or on any other leader's journey, because we are all different. Everybody has their own journey. If you had asked Kamala Harris three months ago if she was if she knew she was going to be the presidential candidate for the Democrats, of course she did not know. You know,
it came upon
Of course
her.
she did not know. What is required is I don't know how I can express this. Unisaidie bana labda kama niseme na Kiluya. I appreciate all of those people who see you in certain light and who think that you have that potential. I don't begrudge them, but I'm saying you cannot force journeys. You can also not, you know, they say God's time is the best time. Maybe it will come, maybe it will not come. But what I'm saying is we have to grow leaders. We have to grow leaders who actually appreciate that we cannot continue the way that we are continuing. And the reason why I have those names on the board, I understand one thing, Ali. You cannot be a lone voice and succeed. It is very easy to snuff out one candle.
Yeah.
My friend, you need floodlights in Kenya. Right now, we need critical mass. We need young people from across the country, so that if you put your hopes in Sifuna today and Sifuna lets you down, there are other people. And that is what I feel. Because if you are just at the lone voice up at you, watakata tu kichwa. It has happened many times before.
And that's it.
So what we need is because I know Kenya has a lot of talent, I want to encourage people to be bold. When you're calling for me to be bold, you yourself show boldness. Let us have people running for office who can also say those things. You know, I am very proud with some of the young people who have very bravely, because there is no room for cowardice in these things. When people were being afraid to come to media to say what they want as young people, it is people like Caswell who came out and said, me, I will say, I like people who put their names on things. Hapana tu hapo Twitter tu uko hapo una run pseudo account, kazi yako ni kusema tu umbwa jidishi umbwa jidishi. But when you are called upon and said, come out now, let us build this country together that we want to see, we need critical mass. You're not going to do it alone, man, my friend. You're not going to do it alone. And the day we have critical mass, I'm telling you, we have like you don't even need a lot of people. I just need like 10 members of parliament in the National Assembly. Alafu you have 24 senators hapo kwa Senate. Mkuje tuongee hiyo maneno sasa.
Okay, sawa sawa.
Lakini saa hii boss.
Yeah, na kuna watu hapa, like the same way, like there's some people who admire the people who are on the other side. Like Esther Mulusa here says, and I know if I don't read this comment,
comments ngapi huyo Esther Mulusa?
Esther, if I don't read this comment, Esther will come for me. So let me just.
Kwani ako hapa karibu zai thought ako nini Navaholo.
Yuko Navaholo, but she's from North Carolina. Yuko Shimalavandu.
Shimalavandu nini hapa?
Yuko Shimalavandu, but she's also from North Carolina. So yeye yuko Kenya na yuko huku. Ile siku atarudi atakuja kutufuata. So Esther says, I had a lot of respect for Sifuna, but after he joined politics, he joined the bandwagon of politicians who have lowered public political discourse and normalized uncouth insults towards opponents. I grew up listening to high-level political exchanges that were mature and intellectual. The language used by Babu Owino, Millie Odhiambo, Hassan Joho, etc. is deplorable and should not, I think she meant should not be elevated. We should also use honorable civil language on public forums. This is a big concern to me. We should be a good example to the young who now glorify politics of Matusi. We should not communicate like chokoras. So this is Esther Mulusa from Shimalavandu. And you remember that she also said that ODM has a bias against Luhyas, and Luhyas are the ones who put ODM to power.
Now, between me and Esther, who needs to change? Because if you just see things from the paradigm of your tribe, that you see a crowd of people and you ask how many Luhyas are there, she has a bigger problem than us. I'm telling you. Because these youth, what they have told us is that we need to move away from politics of tribe. It is a fair point for you to say we need clean politics, to engage in a more civil way. But you cannot also bring up in the same breath, unaanza kutuambia mambo ya ukabila. I am a Luhya and I ran on ODM. I ran on ODM twice. There are Luhyas elected on ODM. I have members of the county assembly elected Luhyas in ODM. The ODM party is not for any one tribe. And we can't just be sitting every time. Unaongea naongea kama Gachagua sasa. Ati watu ya mlima hapo ni wangapi? Kila kitu. Hata kwa hii studio ataanza kusema Waluhya tumenyanyaswa. Wacha tusonge mbele kama wananchi bwana. Kama taifa moja.
Gachagua ameset traps, wewe chunga.
Kuna mitego huko.
Kuna mitego.
Haya. Lazima tuache hii mambo ya ukabila bana boss. Mimi nawaambia tu ukweli. In fact you cannot tell me that. Kwa mambo ya uongozi. Kama mtu ako qualified kukuwa kiongozi, usiangalie kabila yake bwana.
Okay.
Wacha mtu afanye kazi.
Aya, sawa. Sa before we wrap up and go to Mika and Omosha amekuwa kimya kidogo hapo, he's been soaking in everything that Senator has been talking about. The one last thing we're going to ask you, Senator, of all those spaces that you've traveled in the US and you met Kenyans, this being your first time in the US,
yes,
what is maybe one peculiar or different habit that you've seen with Kenyans in the US? So just something unusual ambayo notice that si kawaida na Wakenya ambao wako Kenya, this being your first time.
I think hapa mko more united than nyumbani.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mi vile nimeona watu wenye nimeona. In fact tumekuwa na hii mikutano yote New York, Houston na Seattle.
Yeah.
Hata hii ndio mara ya kwanza tangu nikuje US nasikia mtu akiongea mambo ya Waluhya. Acha nikuje. Nasoma comments zake kila saa. hii ndio the first time nimekuwa Texas kwa, nikienda Seattle, nilienda kwa nyumba ya nani? Pastor Rasta anaitwa Muigai. Ni Msapere. Siku hata namjua. Alipatiwa tu namba yangu akaniambia, Sifuna ukifika Seattle nitakuja kukuchukua kwa hoteli yako. Amenichukua na gari yake yeye mwenyewe, amenipeleka kwake. Wife yake, mother yake kwa hapo, wote ni Wasapere. Hata mkutano ikianza tuliomba na Kisapere.
Okay, all right.
Sasa hii mambo ingine bana, hii ingekuwa nyumbani. Watu ungesikia wacha lazima Muluya ndiye aombe, tuko na chairman yetu. Halafu I really like the unity there, and there is a sense of looking out for each other. At least in Seattle I saw it very very strongly, and even in Houston.
Okay.
There's a sense of looking out for each other. People know. Kwa hiyo room kuna msee alikuwa anasema huyu ndiye ananiuzianga unga. Kuna jamaa anaitwa Omosh huko Seattle alikuwa anasema pia Wakenya tunafaa kuemulate vitu wa Ethiopia wamefanya.
Yes.
Wamekampa pamoja sana, tusikue tu ati tunakutananga saa ya matanga na vitu zingine, tufanye biashara pamoja, pull resources together tuweze kusaidiana kugrow. Unaona?
Kabisa.
Kuna watu wamejipenyesha, alikuwa ananipa example ya wa Ethiopiano, umejipenyesha kwa certain businesses hapa US.
Yes.
Na pia sisi tuko na hiyo potential. So I was very impressed. I only pray because it is very difficult Ali, to leave your country and then to come and look for a better living this far.
It's never easy.
It is a great sacrifice. So I respect those people, because hata mimi tu nikienda tu hata Kisumu wiki mbili nazia tu kurudi nyumba, nataka kurudi tu Nairobi tu nikae Nairobi.
Okay.
Sasa wewe imagine umetoa mtu Kenya all the way umempeleka Seattle, but they have a very good sense of community na wanasaidiana. Hata kuna dem nilipata pale ana run training ya Wakenya wajue vile kupeana hizi skills za home care nini, yani anawasaidia waweze kujisaidia wao wenyewe. So I was very impressed with that.
Okay, sawa. Haya, Mike, tuanze kuongea na wahenga ama?
Wahenga walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. We are about to wrap this puppy up. Mika Och.
Sijini ya chomosha ongea mdomo yake na amenyamaza sana. Anyway, I just want to say, maze mbona leo naongea Kizungu?
Si unajiona kama
nimependa kutoka.
Unajiona uko Senate. Mr. Speaker sir.
I wanna feel niko Senate.
Unaweza jaribu the tribe that were told not to speak.
Kiluya.
Kanianza kuongea Kiluya ndo muongea mbaji wa Luya hapa ndani.
Sio ni Mluya Busia.
Mimi Mluya Busia, mimi ndi Marachi.
Lakini mtu hawezi jua ati sasa juu uko DC.
Accent yangu ya Kiluya utoka, sijui nimepotelea wapi. Zinatoka mbaya. Anyway, so I wanted to say what Senator asante sana, and it's a pleasure, and we're glad that you were able to avail yourself and come and have a conversation with us. And Navlumona, as in it, what do you say? Disagreement, is a way of communication. It doesn't mean that it's an argument or what wamekosana. It's usually just like we can differ in opinions, and after differing of that opinion, sit down and continue with life normally, have a drink, chill. And so the thing is, hii ndo party bit si tumejua tukianza siasa. Na hii ndo party tunakufa nayo na siasa. Si ati tunaacha every time. So there are things that you see and you feel in a certain way that hapa mmetuangusha, hapa tuna feel party ingetufanyia vitu hivi. So that is what we hoped that we can communicate. And also thank you for answering all of our questions, and thank you for always being there again. Minda Samal, thank you for what you did June 25th, but I also say that you've been the one person who has kept this government on its toes since it came into power. Since kuanzia siku za Reggae Monday, tukatoka Reggae Monday,
Thursday
tukatoka Thursday na tukatoka
Machozi Monday. Kwa Machozi Monday
tukarudi ndani, tukarudi na kwa radio ukawachapa daily mpaka kuna mtu akauliza mchokangi kwenda kujaibisha, because every day mnaenda kujaibisha. So as in you have helped keep them true, and we can just hope that that continues. And also, we just hope that within your powers, we can help and achieve some of the things that people went out on the streets for, and some of the demands that people have been asking, especially the reconstitution of IEBC. We really hope that starts happening soon. IDs, registration of IDs, voters registration. As much as we've said that the Gen Zs have shown that we can go out and we can push and we can demand good governance, we also need to have the power to show these people that we can vote you out and we can vote you in. We can do whatever we want. So having those voters registries fixed, we're having those voters cards, having those IDs is something I hope that you can continue pushing and fighting for. And with that, welcome to America. Na kama uko hii weekend kuna sherehe, sema tu tutakupigisha round.
kwanza likosa sherehe nyingine meje ilikuwa hapa DMV weekend, but wao waliamua kwenda kwingine. Kulikuwa na sherehe moja meja hapa DMV na kina DJ Cuts.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, sawa sawa.
Lakini pia hii weekend tuko na sherehe alternate sound wako area. Sema tu.
Now another thing, kesho, I know a lot of people who want to meet Senator physically. Atakuwa around kesho, so mu communicate na mimi mniambie, because this is weekday. Communicate with me if there's a place maybe where you'd like to go after work kukutana na senator. We can facilitate that, we can make that happen, and then kuzidrop hapo kwa comments. Ama kuna wengine wenyu mko na manyumba kubwa, you know, there are people here kwa comments taki kuwataja, but they have some houses so big, yani akirudi Kenya anapatiwa tu cabinet secretary, because unajua hizi positions za cabinet secretary zinapatiwa tu wenye manyumba kubwa na mabilionea. So please type up hapo kwa comment, mtuambie so that we know some of the people. Bora kuna ugali hawezi kosa. Ugali hawezi kosa.
Ugali hawezi kosa.
Yeah.
Kuna mtu mmoja hapa lakini sitamtaja.
Yeah, ugali hawezi kosa, but hiyo hapo tutapanga.
Charlie Brown,
yeah,
Timberlands.
Hapana, achana story ya Charlie Brown. Hatuwezi peleka Senator Charlie Brown.
But
thank you.
Kuna base nilienda inaitwa Mwaniki's boss. Ukiona
no, I know Mwaniki's Houston. Najua Mwaniki's.
Kwamba matumbo nyama
Charlie Brown. Sawa, lakini sasa watu wa Charlie Brown walete critical mass. Ile senator alikuwa anaongea kama kuna critical mass sema.
Wanaanza siasa pengine.
Okay. Sawa. Yeah. Okay, sawa. DJ Moshfire. Kuna watu wanasema hapa ulibaki kuwa mpenzi mtazamaji. DJ Moshfire.
People. Anyway, asante sana Senator. Inaonekana hiyo t-shirt yangu utaleta, size yangu I will inbox you.
Nishaiona.
Na pia hiyo email yako uache juu kuna maswali zingine tuko nazo tungetaka kukutumia, alafu pia we uone ukirudi home unajua unaenda kwa hao wasee unawasambazia, unaambia mazee nilikuwa na wasee kule diaspora na hii committee ya pesa wanaona tufanye hivi ama ni hivi. But with that said, we really appreciate the fact that you are able to honor the commitment of coming through, even though kulikuwa na itilafu kidogo initially, but you were able to come through. For a second there, we thought it may not happen, but surely you kept your word. So for that, we really appreciate. We also appreciate the service that you're doing. Tunaona unajitate hapo kiasi. And we hope and pray that you continue. Najua the Sifuna roots zinatoka mbali sana. Ule jama unakaa naye who used to part his hair in the middle. Rest in peace. Lakini najua yes. And those are the people who opened the path for us. So kuna wale hawaelewi ama hawajui. And I just thought I would mention that because some people, you know, are wondering who is this Sifuna guy and where does it come from? There's deeper roots to just seeing the guy we see sitting in front of us. So I say thank you. And tafadhali, when you go back, watu wasifikirie wase wa diaspora tu ni wase wa pesa na kusiji investing, don't show up like we were told, just keep throwing money and don't show up because we are Kenyans and we need services and facilities here in the diaspora that are available for us to get our passports, IDs, and all other sorts of documents. So we can invest because easy stories are invest. Siwezi invest kwa plot ambayo siziona. So with that said, I will give back to my people in the studio. Ali, have at it.
Okay, thank you so much, Omosh. And before we let Senator here have the last word, easy comments, easy maswali haziwache kuja. So I'll just read, like a few comments here. A senator goes out, he will answer these questions. Now, huyu hapa indefatigable anasema, on a lighter note, Supawanyika has been looking for Sigalame since I was a child. He was found in Bungoma. So hiyo hapo ni code. I don't understand what that is.
Rumba wanasumbua.
Yeah.
Sasa hiyo inabidi tuicheze ndio tujue nini anasema.
Yeah, and then Judy Nyar Oyuyo has a very important question here. Does ODM have a working diaspora arm? And this I know, like our producer Mubelo Bandio is Tanzanian. I know the parties in Tanzania, they have at least CCM. Unajua Tanzania wako na parties, lakini tuseme tu ni CCM. Wako na branches huku diaspora that we see them work. And I think also Chadema, I've seen, like some Chadema operatives out here in the diaspora.
Yeah.
So that would be something important to know. And on that, Pia, diaspora representation, we don't know how that can happen. It will be good to know if we can, in the next election, we can elect someone to represent us on diaspora issues. Nancy Mirosi is still insisting we need to know what happened to Ashu. Iyo hapo utatuambia. And then Esther Mulusa, explain Men in Black at Kasarani. Why the violence? Is that science? And then hapa Indefatigable anasema, I worked for a pharmaceutical company that wanted to set up a manufacturing facility in Nairobi. The consulting companies, the company decided to set up somewhere else, and the reason was strictly expensive and unreliable power, which can cause huge losses for drug manufacturers. And I think you addressed that very comprehensively. And then Brian B. Nyamo anasema Sifuna, great job. Delphine anasema well stated. Washeke, you mean bread based. I think that's when we said broad based. And then hapa let me see, Adhiambo alikuwa anamwambia Esther should come down, Esther should come down, Kindiki deserves Sifuna's wrath. And then hapa Delphine alikuwa anauliza pia, for the young people in mashinani, is it possible to one day to get free internet to hustle, especially those who trade forex daily as a hustle? Is there a time internet itakuwa affordable mashinani? Is Kenya capable of providing internet everywhere? And then let me see hapa.
Let's take those because
yeah, let's take those here because time imeenda.
10 o'clock and
sawa.
We also have an engagement tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, so
sawa. Let's
sure
take those. Yeah.
The questions will be there. Let me just finalize by saying that I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to speak to Kenyans in the diaspora. I appreciate the support, all the kind words, all the encouragement, all the good thoughts and the good dreams that people are expressing over me or for me. And I want to thank people here who have helped me even to put together some of these visits. Like Albert Musasia, Laban Opande, he opened up his restaurant in Houston for me, inaitwa Sugars.
Okay.
Nika place sherehe inaweza noga pia
watu wanaweza anguka nayo.
Of course, Muigai, Pastor Rasta,
okay.
Alinikaribisha kwa nyumba yake kule Seattle. Lao watu siku ati nawajua, but they have embraced me as a brother, as a Kenyan, and I feel very honored that they were able to accommodate me. Kuna jamaa anaitwa Evans, alikuanga neighbor wa bro yangu kwa Ngong. Bana sikujua huyu jamani, walisema anaitwa ni pharmaceutical engineer ama there's a term hapo.
Okay.
Jamaa alinipeleka lab yake yenye ana set up.
Nice.
Job kwake. One of the biggest labs I've ever seen. Wale mnakuaga na hizi mashida za kupimwa urine kila wiki. Mnajijua?
Wanatengeneza hizo vitu.
Unaona vile ananiangalia. It was legal in Maryland.
Watu wakupeleka nini? Sio hiyo.
Watu wakupimiwa bangi.
Si bangi. Kila siku uko kwa daktari anakuambia leta sample ya mkojo. Unajijua?
Okay.
Sasa hiyo lab, it was very impressive, and it's Kenyans who are doing amazing things here, and I just want to say I was very honored. Wale watu wanauliza kama tutaendelea kufanya ile kazi ambayo tunafanya kama viongozi wa upinzani. Wewe ngoje uone. because mwingine alisema ati mwezi mzima hatujasikia I've been here for almost how many 14 days now. So when I go back and Senate is also on recess, this work requires that eternal vigilance will be there, whether it is Mbadi haizi rudisha hiyo finance bill, hata yeye anajua mtu wa kwanza atakutana na yeye ni mimi. Nikisikia Oparanya anaambia vijana ati watarudisha Hustler Fund, na tulikuwa na yeye Kamkunji tukiwaambia wachukue na wasilipe.
Oparanya
nitamkumbusha
Oparanya kwanza ameanza kuipenda hiyo Hustler Fund.
Ndio nakwambia
ameanza kuchange mind.
Ngoja tu tunarudi tu kwa kiwanja na wao. Taambia umeanza kusema vitu gani hizo, umesahau wewe ndio uliambia vijana wachukue hiyo pesa na wazirudishe, because I was there. So hakuna mtu anaogopa Oparanya. Hakuna kijana anaogopa Oparanya. When Oparanya tells that a young person that he is coming for you. Wacheni jokes bwana. Hakuna kitu kama hiyo. Haya.
These are the opinions of Senator Sifuna and not of the OneMic show.
I have to give those opinions. Simumeuliza kama oversight, tutafanya oversight. Hakuna mtu anamuogopa. We will look them in the eye and tell them that is nonsense. We don't support this. Haya. The question of sasa hii relationship, I really want us to start a journey together, because I will admit that as a politician myself, as a leader, that link between myself and members of the diaspora has not been there. And I am sure it is also true for majority of the members of parliament that the political leadership has not been engaged. It doesn't make sense. If you look at the remittances, the money that you send back to Kenya, even if we were just to say 10% of that money should be used on diaspora affairs, kuhakikisha kwamba mko na workers ama wafanyikazi kwa hizo consulates, tuongeze consulates to make sure mnapata documents na services zile mnahitaji haraka, I don't think it would be asking too much. And I want to say that because tumeanza hii journey pamoja, I want you to try. There is magic that happens when you meet people. Now I have people that I can call and can call me directly from Seattle, because I also needed to build my own relationships, unaona. So I am very happy that kama tumekutana sasa, I gave an undertaking in Seattle, and I want to repeat it here, that I am now available for the issues of the diaspora. And you will see ile ya kwanza tutaanza nayo, the state of the Kenyan consulars in America will be one of my first questions. We will bring Musalia Mudavadi there, and because our proceedings happen live, you will be able to see.
And on that note, on the consular services, not to interrupt you, and I know they cannot tell you, I'm telling you this because I talk to them. They sometimes go for months without getting paid.
So all of those issues, when you tell us, then it becomes difficult for people to fool us as to the true state of the situation on the ground. So my biggest takeaway from this visit to the US is that I have been able to make genuine connections with people that I can trust to give me proper information about the state of affairs in affecting the Kenyan diaspora. And for me, because this is what I was elected to do and I have the platform, I'll be a champion for some of these things so that we see what changes we can make here and there. And I will always be honest with you people. If we set out on a journey together and niwaambie I encounter difficulties, I will share the difficulties I'm encountering. Many of those difficulties will manifest themselves in a way that even you will see mahali nimekwama. Unaona? So what we cannot do is not try. We will try our best, and I want to make that commitment here. Do we have a working diaspora arm in ODM? We have for a long time relied on a gentleman called John Maina. I'm sure you know him. And he has helped us to coordinate many of these activities. Maybe he needs a bigger team, because the world is big, man. The world is big. Maybe we need a specific person for
the different regions.
And now that some of the people we have had conversations here, kina Mika, wanasema they are done with us. Sasa tutatoa wapi representatives wa nikitaka sasa, kama tuseme saa hii niseme nataka tuanze kuset up ODM diaspora office, munipatie mtu ama watu wawili watatu wenye watanisaidia hiyo kazi, na watu wamejam.
Mika is reflecting sentiment on the ground. Unajua Mika, mimi na si sote tumekuwa ODM. Sentiment on the ground.
Kama Mika alianza na sisi huko 202 na sasa amejam, sasa nitatoa wapi representatives wa RD? Tunafaa at some point tukae chini tusikizane ya kwamba yes, we understand why people are disappointed. There is work to be done. Even in fact, in terms of explaining ourselves, you cannot do it alone as Sifuna. we need representatives in all these places to be able to go to meetings, and they liaise directly with the office if there are any clarifications that need to be done. Tutapeana. Aya. Okay. Unaona sasa watu wenye wanapenda kunitafutia makosa. Nimejibu maswali zote. Mtu ananiuza mambo ya Men in Black. Men in Black ilikuwa mwaka gani?
Men in Black?
No, which year was it?
It was I think before the 2000. Was it before the 2017 election?
No.
It was before 2013.
Yes.
It was before the 2013 election. But then
it was not before it was a party
after.
election in 2014.
Yeah.
That is 10 years ago.
Kasarani.
But
that
remember,
is 10 years ago, and still today people want to use that to define ODM.
But remember,
do you know where I was in 2014?
But remember,
no, do you know where I was in 2014?
So 2014,
I was not the SG of ODM.
You are
in
not the SG of ODM.
I am the SG of ODM in 2014. How many elections have we run since then?
But then,
when was the last time you saw Men in Black? Muniwache bwana.
Ngoja kidogo.
Hapana. Kama mmekosa kunitafutia makosa sasa.
Ngoja seneta kidogo.
Hakuna bwana.
Hii juzi
hawezi kuniambia nijibu mambo ya 2014.
Hii juzi kukiwa na meeting ya ile ya Azimio pale kwa tent, there was a semblance.
Mimi niambie meeting ya ODM. I am as SG of ODM. I'm not the SG of Azimio.
Okay, fair enough.
Bana, wacheni bwana.
Fair enough.
Kama mtu ana makosa, kubali tu ana makosa. Na tusonge mbele.
Lakini unajua
unaniuliza mpaka vitu za 1982, mimi nilizaliwa 1982.
Unajua sasa hapa the People's Kamkunji kuna watu wa kutoka kila pali, wa kutoka ile kona.
Lakini tuagree kitu moja. Tuagree kitu moja. Mimi naomba yani tukue watu wenye tunakuwa na righteous anger. Ukasirikie mtu juu ya kitu ya ukweli. Na we try to find out more information about things. Na wezi niuliza vitu father yangu alifanya.
Na
2014 mimi nilikuwa wapi?
Kwanza bado Esther bado anakuuliza, anasema
swali lingine.
Si swali, anakuambia
umpatie namba yangu
anasema I need to debate you.
Mpatie namba yangu anipigie.
Okay, sawa.
Hatuwezi kaa hapa tuna nini tunajibu mtu mmoja bwana.
Okay, sawa. Okay. Asante sana Senator Sifuna. I mean, this was a very amazing exchange. It was one of those that we didn't know how it was going to turn out, because there was a lot of anger against politicians after Gen Z, like after the killings, after the abductions. And I think, like how we're going to keep this connection open, Senator, is even while you're in Kenya, we'll be communicating with you. And if you can come on our live shows, like via Zoom, we can facilitate that. We can make sure that happens. So again, asante sana. Like when you go back to Kenya, ongea na Musalia, mambo ya foreign affairs, your diaspora affairs, issues, consular services, and then I'll also speak on behalf of the employees, because we have some very dedicated employees in these consulates, and now ndo wanasumbuliwa, wachana na diplomats. I'm talking about the local staffers. Because they've been here for so many years, they're the ones we bother. We text them in the middle of the night with our issues, and hizi ni vitu they do voluntarily. So please make sure, especially your issue ya malipo, some of them have not seen a salary increment from 2011 na tuko 2024. And I'm saying this, and I know I'm gonna get in trouble with some of them, because mara nyingi they don't want to talk about these things, but because we know them, we know these things have been happening. So please take care, make sure their welfare is taken care of, because they work very hard.
My job is to get you answers.
Yes.
So I will bring those questions to the relevant people and expect that they will give us answers as to what that situation is about.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That one I give you my promise.
All right. That's good.
Thank you.
And again, people who want to meet Senator Sifuna tomorrow out here in the DMV, please inbox me. We'll make a plan after work, be it 5:30, 6 p.m. Pali watu wataweza kwenda kukutana, kuongea, and meet. Hata kama ni Charlie Brown, kama kuna critical mass Baltimore, please tell us, and I'm sure Senator Sifuna will be happy to go there and meet Kenyans in Baltimore, because Baltimore, in this DMV area, Baltimore is a stronghold. That's the area with the most Kenyans. This whole DMV area, DC, Maryland, Virginia, there are Kenyans scattered all over, but Baltimore, huko ndo kuna hiyo inaitwa critical mass. Ukieka sherehe huko, ile time Samido alikuja huko, man, the place was full. You'd have thought you are somewhere either in Kiambu or yani kulikuwa kumejaa, kulikuwa kumechrome. Na kwa hayo machache, Nataka kuwakumbusha wote wale bado wanataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile ile 1-800 mteule, na operator akishika simu mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu, na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule yule wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Kwaherini.
One mic before we end.
Yes.
People, we are taking a summer break. We will be back in 2 weeks.
Hata si 2 weeks. Si 2 weeks. We are taking a break. Ebu ngoja niangalie calendar hapa. Very good, Mika, you reminded us, so that people don't set their Friday dates with us for the next couple of weeks. I think itakuwa sina calendar hapa, but itakuwa ile Friday. What is the next the Friday after the next Friday?
Oh, the Friday after the next Friday.
Yeah,
that will be not the Friday after the next Friday.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
So that will be the 13th.
The 13th.
The 13th.
The
13th of September.
The 13th of September, that's when we're gonna come back.
Okay.
Yeah, itakuwa Friday the 13th, but it will come with good luck.
Good luck, kabisa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A few things. I usually make my whatever's short. I support Ali. If Sifuna is to branch off and do his own thing, support Tico Deep. The Kenyan men of Baltimore have usually every year we normally have a July 4th extravaganza. Kenyan men in the Maryland area, they contribute some chums. Tunachinjia watu wetu, familia zetu. We have a big cookout. Yeah. You've been invited officially next year, July 4th weekend. By Kina Keguro and Francis, okay. Kenyan men in Baltimore.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Asante sana.
And Aiden, Daddy loves you. Jerry, Daddy loves you. Nemo, Daddy loves you. Until the other week, be blessed.
Hakuna kamziki tutacheza hapo. DJ amepotea.
DJ kwa Atlanta anafanya madhogodhanio.
Hakuna kangoma kamoja hapo.
Kuna kakitu hapa tunaweza cheza.
Okay.
As we go there, as we go off air.
Unajua watu wa rumba, kuna two groups. Watu wa rumba, watu wa reggae na watu wa lingala. Wanaletaga problem sana wote.
And by the way, we need to go off air.
Okay, sawa sawa.
Watu wa rumba ni watu wa daddy issue.